do a live. Oh, let me turn this off. It's making a lot of noise, right? All right. So, um, yeah, I said let me get in and do a live. I wait. I didn't even tell anybody. Y'all probably thought I was joking about doing a live, but let's just see. I'm gonna give everybody a moment to get in the space. All right. Yeah, the sisters were doing a good job, but I know I know how frustrating those tech issues can be. You know, when you're trying to get through a segment, and I know there were a lot of questions and whatnot that were coming up, and they weren't able to get through them. The sound was messed up and all of that. So I said I'm going to do a live, and here I am. Right. All right. So it's a couple people here. All right. So y'all around. Yeah. So I'm gonna. We can basically just continue the discussion that we were just having. What am I? I'm looking for something here. I haven't been live in so long. Give me a sec. Give me a second to, you know, get back on it to figure out. Plus, my thing was blocked. I'm blocked again, right? I'm always blocked. I'm always blocked. And I don't be doing anything. But they have me on restriction for 7 days, and I have a strike against the channel, and I got some other strikes too. From the Willie Lynch letter, I got a strike, and then from the last thing, I'm gonna explain some of that later, get into why, but I ain't gonna make a big deal about it. But yeah, so let's get into it. You know, the sisters, they were doing a great job. Actually, that's why I said let me just do a lot and keep the momentum going because they were having some audio tech issues. That happens. It's happened to me a bunch of times. Um, but I know there was some questions that we weren't able to really dig into. So let's dig into them, man. Throw your questions in the chat. We were talking about betrothal, and in particular, they were building on like your marital contract, what we would call the ketubah, and essentially like some of the things that you may put into the contract. Why is there a contract? And shalom, Shabbat shalom, everyone. Why is there a contract? And then of course, like you've heard me say many times, that if your sex is the union, that is the union, right? So not the wedding ceremony, not the contract, because the reality is you can have all the contract you want, but a great contract is not going to resolve character flaws and defects within your union, right? Some people think that, like, oh man, I got this ketubah, I got it on nice parchment paper, got these nice little graphics on the side and all of that. You know, we're gonna have a good family, and it just doesn't work that way. You know, so there's so much more that goes into a sane and healthy union, right? So, you know, again, these type of questions were being asked, but we couldn't really get totally into it. So feel free to ask. I'm gonna answer a few if they make sense. If they're silly, you know, I'm not like the sisters. I'm gonna ignore them. All right. But I'm speaking particularly about those who are walking and living within the culture. You know, if you are coming from a Western perspective, then none of what we spoke about will make sense to you. None of it is really going to feel relevant at all because, again, your ideation of what a relationship is or your ideation of marriage is going to be completely different, right? Yeah, and let me just put a post up for the video real quick. I normally don't go live so impromptu like that, but like I said, I was feeling for the sisters because they were flowing. They had a nice little flow going, and then the tech issues. And I've been there so many times. I know how that is. That's so annoying. You know, when you're flowing and people are asking questions and people are learning and stuff, and then it comes. They start. The tech stuff starts to mess everything up. So I said, yeah, let's just keep it going, right? Um, so there we go. Cool. and feel free to post questions. We can continue it. All right. So I saw something about the word time. Matter of fact, I'm gonna look on two devices so I don't have to keep pressing the screen. I'm still using the stand. Remember when I was doing the Commander days and I said I was gonna take one of the super chats or some of the super chats rather than buy a stand? That's the stand I'm still using right now. But I was traveling with it, and one of the there's a screw. One of the adjustments, the screw I left in someone's car. It fell out of the bag. Like it's got a little carrying bag, and it fell out. And fortunately, they still have it. But I just have to go pick it up. Actually, so I don't want to press. Sometimes it swings a little bit because I can't tighten it like I need to. But I did get the stand, and I did feed some people. But the difference, like not difference, but like when I do stuff like that, I don't like to put it on film. You know, like here, let me show you. Giving somebody a sandwich. Okay, so Brother Lowe said, is there ever a time where a contract has to be reissued? It depends on how you establish your contract, right? It's that's why I said you make your vow, you make your covenant. Excuse me, you make your covenant, which is your promise. You make that between you and Yah, right? But you're like I have a covenant already with the Creator, like right now today. You see, and that covenant stands before I meet a sister and say, "Hey, let's be a family," right? So I'm already within contract, and you know that's an important thing when you think about your covenants because a lot of times we'll get into relationships outside of the covenant of the Almighty, and we'll try to apply the same rules, like right. So if let's say if I get into a covenant and I'm in covenant with a woman and the state, it's the three of us. We go get a marital license, we pay our money, and the state says, okay, I allow you now to be married, right? That's not under the covenant of the Most High. So now, whatever happens with that situation, let's say me and the sister we split up, whatever, whoop de whoop, and then I go find a righteous woman, and I go through the process, but now I do it the right way. But I find a righteous woman because maybe now, not maybe, but let's just say I'm in a new covenant now with the Most High. I've now decoupled myself from the beast, which is the state, or Lestat. I've decoupled myself from the state, and I've now adjoined myself to Yah, right? So now when I enter into contract, it's a new contract. The one that existed before is null and void. So what I have to go back to that one and say, okay, well, we did it this way, this way. That was a different person, right? So now, even when I meet this sister and I've already adjoined myself in covenant to the Most High, we are promised. We make a vow to each other, right? So vows happen between earthlings. Promises or covenants happen between you and the divine. That's the difference, right? So what we sign, what we talk about, hey, I don't eat eggs. Cool. Hey, I don't paint no walls the color black. Cool. Hey, don't throw me down those steps. Cool. Whatever our vow is, that's between these are the vows I make between you. But we've already promised ourselves to the Most High. That's already happened, right? So whatever it is that we establish, and that's an eternal, locking in, right? So whatever it is that we establish between us is what we establish between us. That's a separate type of vow, right? Now ultimately, I should be linking with the woman because we are both in contract to the same entity. It's like a job, right? I might meet an accountant on the street and I might say, "Hey, let's work on this project together." But why would this accountant work on a project with me if we don't work inside of the same firm? I may work for, let's say the AGD company, and the accountant may work for the 145 company, right? So we have a pre-existing already covenant with two different organizations with two different plans, two different strategies, two different visions. So it really wouldn't mean the same thing. But if we work within the same company, we're here to fulfill the same directives, the same vision, the same operational strategies of what we've been given by the head. We're here to fulfill that. Then what we decide between us in terms of our interoperating is between us. It's similar to the organisms that you have. You have different systems in your body. Some are they're multi-organisms, right? So an example of a multi-organism system in your body would be your digestive system, your respiratory system, your central nervous system, right? These are systems where there's more than one organ working for the goal of a particular thing. I mean, even your epidermal, your skin, right? Because you can extract vitamin D from milk, but what your body actually needs is vitamin D3. And in order to turn that vitamin D into vitamin D3, you have to get at least 20 minutes of sunshine a day. Where do you get the sunshine? On your skin, right? So if the skin is aware and the organ is aware that, hey, we have to get these nutrients, we have to get these vitamins, then they're going to create an agreement between them. Now, does it need to be reissued? It shouldn't technically need to be reissued, because if I have eternal, I'm going to say eternal. Oh, cool. Hold on one second. I'm sorry. One track was distorted, the other was clean. I can see it clean. No, I sent you clean tracks. I'm sorry. I got somebody mixing some music for me right now, and I sent some drum tracks over that I had played, but one of my mics was distorted out, and I told him just ignore the distorted track, use the one that's actually clean. But I told him already, so why is he telling me that one track was distorted, the other was clean? I can send the clean track over if it wasn't in the stems. It was in the stems. All right. Anyway, I'm sorry. This is an impromptu live. And besides, it's Sabbath, so I'm not working right now anyway. So I'll deal with this tomorrow after sunset. So what was I saying? I'm sorry. I'm thinking about them drums. Um, so yeah, we have already a pre-existing long-standing contract. That doesn't really need to be reissued per se. But let's say if you get into an agreement with someone, like for instance, again, you could look at the body, you could look at the respiratory system. You may have an issue with one lung, or you may have an issue with the way you eat, or you smoke, or whatever. So over time, your system is going to renegotiate the vow. It's going to renegotiate the contract. The lungs are going to say, "Hey, you got me working harder because you don't do any sort of cardiovascular exercise. You don't do any kind of aerobics. You don't do anything. So now I have to function different than how I was when we originally made our agreement, right? But ultimately, we're still trying to do the same thing. We're still trying to support the metabolic process of the body, right? So if something needs to be reissued, like your contract doesn't go stale per se, and that's why it's important. Like I had spoken in the other chat, that our contracts are done. The contracts are authorized or given its weight and authority by the community, right? Because we don't exist in a vacuum, right? I can say, it's like the rapper The Game. He has this song. It's an old song now, but it was called One Blood, right? And I remember when I first heard the song. I mean, it was a cool little song. He got Junior Reed, singing on it, One Blood, One Blood. And it was funny to me because I'm like, yeah, you are One Blood, because I ain't never seen any set ever claim you. I ain't never even really see you throw up a set, really, to be honest with you. So you probably are One Blood by yourself, right? Um, so it's the community that gives the context. You remember, like I've said before, character can't truly be discovered outside of the matrix of a community. So it's just like your marriage. What really validates this is a marriage between two divine people? It's the clan. We are a divine clan. So when my clan gets together with your clan, we have certain rituals, we have certain rites that mean something to us because of our particular community, right? So I may be a Moorish Israelite Hebrew man in the Northeast, and there may be a Moorish Hebrew Israelite woman. Um, I would really want from where I'm at in the Northeast, but let's just say if I get a foreign woman, she's from the Philippines, right? Um, how does her people know that I am what I say I am? And how do I know that she is what she says she is? It's through the communities that authorize us. So even when we get together in marriage, it's our communities that lock arms and say, "Oh, y'all are chosen people. We're chosen people too." You see, so that's what I was mentioning in that in terms of giving it the credentials and the weights. But as far as like having to reissue a contract, you would do that. Maybe if there's an issue, if you want to renegotiate something, you might create some addendums. You might ratify what it is that you originally agreed upon. All right. So go to. I know there was. I saw another question mark. Um, and again, the sisters were doing a great job. I'm just. They were doing so well that I wanted to try to keep it going for them. Oh, you know what? And peace, brother. Just sent you the mix. Once I changed, I told you. Once I changed the track, the whole song changed. Exactly, because you was using the distorted track. I got it sorted out though. Is there a specific phrase you would like me to do? There was no, or yeah, I didn't need any gating on my vocals. Vocals were clean. All right, I'll get back to it. Sometimes sometimes when you're in the booth, especially me, like I always have to clean up little pops and clicks and stuff because I breathe deep. I'll be like, you can hear it on the track, or sometimes I like to hit, like I hit the beat out on my leg. I might have keys in my pocket or something. You can hear that, but I was holding still on that one, so I think it's fine. Anyway, so let me get back to this. Normally, I mix all my own stuff, but I'm doing something. There's a brother I've known for decades, and he's an amazing mix engineer. I just never really have him mixing any of my stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do something different, man. And I threw him like three, 4 tracks, something like that. But anyway, oh, thank you, Sister Sula. Appreciate it. Peace to you. Peace to you. All right, so we got the contract thing. Oh, is there ever time to reissue? So the other thing may be let's say if you divide, if you split, right? So for whatever reason, you may separate. There could be some sort of issue, and then you decide to come back together, and you may have to renew or review, excuse me, what it is that you initially agreed upon, right? But again, I don't think you'd have to reissue. See, one of the things I want to make it clear, brother Lowe, like when you're speaking about marital contracts and stuff, they really shouldn't be that complicated. Because if we're living the same culture, the only thing that we have to include is our, like I said, our operational plan, right? Because we already have a strategic plan. We already have the strategic vision. We already have a strategic plan. What is the strategy? The strategy is to return back home. That's the strategy. The strategy is to get closer and closer to the Most High and return to our proper place of origin. That's the strategy, right? That's the vision, and the strategy is we're going to utilize the dynamic information and the charge, the electrical charge that's been given to us in order to power ourselves to where we need to go. Now, where is the variation? The operations. What are the operations? That's where you get your tactical plans. How are we going to do this from a day-to-day perspective? Because if if um if I live in Trinidad versus me living in Alaska, my operational plan is going to be different. Plain and simple. Like if I live in Trinidad, we may say, you know what, every dawning we're gonna go out, we're gonna drum, we're gonna sing, we're gonna dance a little bit. We're gonna have a whole connecting experience. Maybe midday we'll link up outside, we'll go make salat, outside, right? Because we'll go to the beach or whatever. We can do that. If I live in Alaska, I may not be able to perform those same operations based on just the varied climate there, right? Now, is the strategy the same? Yes, the strategy is the same, but the tactical operations would be different. You know, or the tactics that would bring about the actual operational goals would be different, right? So yeah, So that's the thing with that. Showing up, brother Low. What was the other one? Sister Kashia says, in what ways does a woman contribute to that marital contract if she does so at all? Yeah, see, the thing is, a lot of times with a woman with a marital contract is a little different than a man because most of the time, it's very clear what you have to do from the moment you go and again it depends on the culture, right? But typically from the moment, like, in Ghana as well as Nigeria, we have what we call the knocking, right? And then well, we have a knocking here in the US too, but it's something different. But the knocking is when you go to her family's house. You literally, you knock on the door, and you make it clear that this is a person that I want to marry. Now, a lot of the family already knows. Like, there's never a time you'll go do a knocking and they're like, "Who is it? What could be happening?" Because chances are you've already spent some time together and things like that. But it's beyond dating, and you want to make it clear. So what happens when you go to do the knocking and you ask the family, because most time when you go to do the knocking, the uncles are already sitting there, like they know the day you're coming to do the knocking, and the uncles and the aunties already have their list for you. You have to get this, you have to get that, you have, and so you're giving back, usually it's on a piece of paper, you're giving back a list of all of the things that you need to bring back in order to solidify the engagement, and to solidify that, yeah, this is, we'll give you her if you provide these things. It's money. This goes to the family. It'd be money, a bunch of other stuff, schnapps, little like drinks, stuff like that. But there's also, based on them knowing you, there will be things that they will make sure you have that the woman needs. For instance, oh man, I wish I could have did. I have knocking lists, right? I could have like screenshot it or something like that, so you can see what it looks like. But some of the things that'll be like on the list will be pantyhose, bras, like certain amount of bras, certain amount of pantyhose. Sometimes clothes, usually not too much. Definitely fabric. Usually gonna bring some fabric to the family, and you gotta also have some fabric for the woman as well, because she's gonna make her own clothes anyway. So fabric, panties, bras, depending on the situation. Like, if you are maybe a bit older, more established, and the woman is younger, a lot of times a part of the knocking will be like, let's say if she's 19, 20, and she's in college or getting ready to go to college, you'll pay for her schooling fees. You'll pay for her school, and you normally in a situation like that, you won't actually get married until she's out of school, right? But the family, it's a little different because, like, once you come for the knocking and the family says yes, they're going to protect the chastity and the dignity of that woman. You know, I've had situations, even myself personally, where I was dealing with certain sisters, and like when I left, went back to the States or whatever, I got phone calls like, "Oh, her ex boyfriend came by the house, and we told him da 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 da, and we just letting you know, like." We spoke to her, told him don't let him come back here, and not even that it was like all that sinister, but like they're making sure, no, we have an arrangement, we have an agreement, and this is where you're going, so um of course the woman is going to sit down with her aunties and say, I want this, I want to go to school, I wanted this. A common one is businesses. That's usually the most common. I Even more so than school, to be honest. But most sisters were like, and maybe it's also common for me because I am a business owner. But most of the time, it's like, oh, I want to do a provision shop, or I had a sister tell me before she wanted to do two things. She wanted to do salt, and she also wanted to do maize or corn. They call it maize over there. But she wanted to sell maize, and she wanted to also do salt production. Right, salt production is a big thing in our area. Right, it's a lot of money. You get a lot of money for those bags of salt. Right, but you got to have the land to do it, and then you actually have to set the land up. Like you clear it, and then you make these really large, shallow, almost imagine like a large shallow swimming pool, or like the ones they have in the parks for the children. They're really shallow. You make those, and you basically, it's a whole process, right? So, but obviously you gotta get the, oh, thanks, Amazi, I appreciate it. But you got to do that, and so this is a whole thing, right? The maize, really, that's just buying the bags of maize, and then it's they just flip it. You buy a bunch of corn, um, and then they sell it, and then they take the profits, buy some more corn. You just keep flipping and flipping and flipping. But it's a pretty good business. It's a pretty good business, especially for people who are raising certain kind of livestock. They're always coming to buy corn, right? So those are some of the things that might be in your knocking list. Because but of course, the woman, she has a say. Never put in your mind, because you hear me sometimes emphasize so much the man has to do. Never put in your mind that the woman doesn't have a choice. She could say, "Nah, I don't like him," or if I am going to do this, this is what it needs to look like. You know, I don't like his house. His house stinks. And I have seen that. There was a brother years ago who I helped out because he is Yoruba, and his wife today is Igbo, right? So what happened was his parents didn't want him to marry her because she's Igbo, right? And it was a whole big thing, and I was there, and I had to like check him because he was like, um, even if you don't give me the blessings, I will pay someone to go do the knocking with me, right? Because you could pay somebody to like be your uncle and like go, because you always have to have an elder go with you. You can't just go by yourself. Like, hey, I'm here for your daughter. This ain't a Gregory Isaac song. Like, you got to do it the right way. So I stepped in. I was like, yo, stop. Like, we not doing that. Like, that's messed up. You're not going to do that. So I was able to speak to his family, and I spoke to her family, and it was like, we got to bring some sanity to this. Um, okay, I think I'm back now. Okay, so and again, thank you again, Amazi, for the super chat. Appreciate it. Um, what was I saying? So yeah, so with this brother, right? So I went because there was beef, So basically, I'm like an uncle to him anyway. So they was like, well, you can go, and because they was like, we not even going to the yard, and I'm like, listen, he's gonna go do this. You know what I mean? Like, now that's foul. He shouldn't do that. But a lot of the young people, and this was years back, um, they've taken on American ways. They've taken on Western ways. I love her. Forget about what the family needs, and I love her. So you always go with an elder, but there were certain demands that sister had. I remember sitting and speaking to her uncle, who we're still cool to this day, because that's a part of what happens too. When you go to link up, it's a whole long drawn out process, and you start talking, you know and you get cool, like her uncle becomes your brother, and so forth and so on, right? There was another time when I had to do something like that where I almost said his name. Well, y'all don't know him anyway, but there's another brother I've known since he was young. Long story short, their families had beef. Like, their families had a serious beef. His, or was it her side? Can't remember if it was his side or her side, where the grandfather was. But one of the, I think it was his. Yeah, it was his. His grandfather killed her grandmother, right? So there was family problems. You know what I mean? Understandably so. And they got together, and the family was not with that at all. Understandably so. They were not trying to hear it, because the family was still kind of like, it was still on site, pretty much. They want some Romeo Juliet stuff. Like, it was still on site between the families. And I remember I went and spoke, and I went with them. because he was like, Uncle, I have to go there, but he was scared. You know, he was like, I don't want to go by myself, and you know, he was like, I need you to bring your, I don't want to say it, algorithm, but you know, you know what that is. He was like, bring that, and we will go, we will speak to them. You know, I'm like, that's what got you in this trouble to begin with. You know, all of this. You know, but yeah. So I remember in that situation, which I ended up not giving my blessing. I went and spoke to the family with them, and I was like, this is not healthy. This is not good. And I tried to explain to him what happens when you have children. You know, um, will both families come for the naming ceremony? There'll always be some sort of conflict. So that was a whole long big thing. But I remember that sister too had certain concerns, and she wanted to move away from the family, and she wanted him to have a certain amount of money so that they could leave, because where we at was like more country, and she wanted to move to South Africa, you know, which is like, you know, on a continent that's like going to Los Angeles and New York, right? So yeah, the woman definitely does always has a say, you know. You don't have to just think like you sit back and like, all right, whatever, you know. But one of the things is you have to scope out what the man's mission is. Like if you jump out of the window left field with something, you have to be prepared for a man to be like, nah, I'm not doing that. You know, I've had a woman say to me once, you know, when we were talking about submission, we were, you know, in courtship, and she said something to me, and I was like, that's it, because I already knew what was coming, and she was like, well, I understand that I'm supposed to submit to you, but she was like, but she said, when will you submit to me? That was it for me, you know. That was it, because I, you know, and I know some of you may listen and be like, oh, well, why don't you just explain that? As you get older, you know certain red flags. You know how to add things up, and you know, okay, whenever you're courting a woman, and there's always this drive for, if I do this, what will you do, or why can't we both do that, right? You're dealing with someone who is seeking to usurp your position. Peace, nephew. What's going on? Yeah, nah, peace. Um, you're looking for someone, or you're dealing with someone who's looking to usurp your position. Soon as you know that, like you gotta know how to, you know, you gotta know how to spot it quick. And a lot of times, you know, I'm big on physiognomy, and I remember this particular sister's 5'10", right? She's like 5'10", always got, you know, just Watusi woman, you know. So I already knew where it was going, right? Um, but everyone has to be vocal, so everybody knows where everybody's at. So yeah, definitely, Sister Kashia. When it comes to your marital contracts, uh, the woman can contribute, but if you come through the door, a lot of the things that you would want to contribute, because you're not writing it, is, you know, I mean, you can't. It depends on the man, but I wouldn't sit down and write a contract with a woman. I already have contracts. This is standard operating. We can twist some things around depending on what's what. But if you come through the door with an agenda, um, that's problematic. You know, so I'll just say it off the. I know a lot of people not gonna like to hear something like that, but if a woman comes in and is, and I've encountered that where a woman is like, I got a business or I got this, so any man I meet, I want him to be able to kind of like accommodate my business. Or sometimes I meet sisters who, um, they think they're conscious, and they'll be like, well, I want to meet a man who's studying the things that I'm studying, right? And sometimes that creates a certain fixture within the psyche, because then it's hard for you to recognize that maybe you might meet a man. Like I've met sisters who are studying certain things, but what I'm on is light years beyond what they're studying. But they've already put that curse out there. I want to meet a man who's studying what I'm studying. So there's no room in that scenario for a dynamic of, you know, leadership, because you want me to accommodate the current level that you're at mentally, and not be excited because, wow, maybe the book that I'm sitting here reading, studying, this man actually wrote. So wow, like I can go so much further. So you know, you have to be careful coming in with an agenda. If you meet a brother, at the end of the day, it's about trust and honor. That's it. Trust is built through predictability. That's male or female. Trust is built through predictability. If he says we're going to talk every day at 1 and he's there at 1 o'clock, if he's there at 1:05 some days, 1:03 other days, he calls you 12:55 some days, 1:15, can't trust him. Can't trust him, right? You build trust through predictability. Whether it's something good you're trusting or something bad that you're trusting. And then the honor, right? Do you really honor him? And a lot of times, something simple like showing up on time is a sign that somebody honors you. I have certain check-ins with my household. Certain times sisters have to deliver certain reports to me every single day, right? This is for all my harem, every single day. Even my children have to check in a certain kind of way. And the sisters who, let's say, are always 5 minutes or 3 minutes, there's a deadline, there's a certain time. They're 3 minutes next to that time, sometimes a minute over, 2 minutes over, and it's always consistent. I know they don't honor me. They don't honor what I'm doing. They don't honor none of it, right? But as a man, you got to be able to spot that and know if you still want to work with it and how you're going to work with it, because not everybody's going to get the same thing, right? Um, you you create concentric rings of trust within your home, and you let people earn themselves into as close as a center circle as they could possibly be. And I can promise you that you'll probably never have anyone in your center circle, but you just know, you have to know the levels of trust that should exist, and that's male or female, right? But honor and trust is so vital in that sense. So when that happens, like a question like you're asking, like, can I contribute to the contract? You won't really want to. I can tell you, there's never, ever, ever been a sister that's ever contributed to any of my union contracts. Though it's been offered, though I show it to them, here, check it out. Go read it. If you want to go look it over with your people, whatever. This is what it's going to. I've never in all my years had a sister say, "Well, I want this, I want that." And the ones who come like that, there's usually other issues that you could see early on. They don't make it that far to to get a contract handed to them. They don't even make it that far. You know, if you get to the point where a contract is handed to you, most, I don't even say most likely, I'm not a woman, but a woman has decided whatever it is, I'm down for it. Whatever it is, I'm down for it. And a lot of that, I spoke about that recently in the Sabbath call. You got to understand that women or feminine energy, or that spirit. When we speak about tachyon energy, we speak about spirit. It's all the same thing. Tachyon energy, spirit, breath, wind, heaven. It's the same thing, right? But that exists all around, right? So the force of will, or the force of electricity, is the smallest part of what's happening in our reality, right? So what that means is the force of masculinity is the smallest thing, and the vibration of that tachyon energy, there's more of it, and it has more energy, right? But the force of the masculine energy is stronger, right? So I can take, let's say if I got this much energy, I could take it, I'm so strong, I can compress it into something that makes sense. I could compress it into a concept. No different than how you take a bunch of wild thoughts that are all over, I'm thinking, and then you compress them into an idea. It's the same thing, right? But you have to be strong, mentally strong enough to be able to order your thoughts or to compress them, right? Light is an order. The Hebrew word for light actually means order. Actually means box. Technically, it translates to box. But what it represents is being able, a box is something you use to put things into order, right? So if once you understand that as a man, you'll understand there's more of her than there is of me, right? You got to understand that from the rip. So certain things that you may see, that you may recognize, you if you don't order it early or don't see how it can be ordered, it will topple you. It will take you over. It will topple you. So That's a part of it. So sometimes you may hear me say, well, you got to look out this, look out for that, look at that, look at the signs early on. Because again, the feminine energy or that tachyon energy, it's a liquid sort of energy. It's like it's similar to Mercury, in that it's gonna spill to where it's allowed to spill. So when you first talking to a sister and she says something like, or you say like, what she says, what do you want or whatever, and you might say, well, I want a woman to be feminine, I want her to be submissive, and then she might say to you, well, if I gotta listen to you, why you can't listen to me? First thing you gotta start, your mind gotta be going like a computer. First thing you look, how old is she? If she's anything over 26 talking like that, she chances are she's tainted. She's done, right? If she's younger than that and she's talking like that, then all that tells you that she wasn't raised right. She didn't have a family where she understood the value or the power and submission, or just the fact that's just the order of things. And it's not a tit for tat thing. If she's still on that tit for tat vibration, these are people who at 50, 60, 70 years old are still single. They're going to die single, right? And you don't want to get caught up in that, because you could marry someone who's still single, and you'll be married to this person for 20, 30 years and not realize you're single. And you'll realize that the day you get sick and you sit in the hospital room by yourself and wondering why your wife or your husband ain't coming to visit you, or you go through some kind of situation or whatever, and they start moving and skipping out on, and then you realize, oh my goodness, I've been single all this time, even though I was married. And that's because my covenant was made through the wrong particular energy that's supposed to bind us together. That's why it's important to, like, we had spoke earlier in the previous chat, and somebody was saying, like, your word is bond, which is true. And as we read in Yohanan or Ion, the word was made flesh and dwelt among us. So we're speaking about Yahweh. But it's always important to understand that when you're speaking about Yahweh, or some people like to say Jesus Christ, and you say, okay, through Jesus we come together, we're bounded together, and our word is bond. Is it is it Jesus Christ, or is it the Christos, or is it the Christus? Right? And I know you might be like, he just said the same thing, right? Or you might have heard a slight variation. These are important things to understand, because a lot of times we fall under the spell of certain paradigms without actually understanding what just happened. You know, there is a when you're looking at people like your Jordan Maxwell's, or your everyday TV evangelists, or your, oh man, I got some other, I'm trying to be nice. I got some other names I could call out. But people who kind of mix with, like, they mix Bible scripture with like a new age self-help, self-love type of ideology. Most of the time when those people are speaking about the life of the sage of Jesus, they're speaking about Jesus Christus. They're not speaking about, and I'm just using the word Jesus, even though we know it's, we know. They're not talking about Jesus Christos or Christos, right? So the Christos is the chosen one, you know, and that chosen one, or the Hamashiach, or Mashiach. The Ha just means the. So Mashiach is like Messiah, Ha, the Messiah, Hamashiach. So if you hear someone say Yahushai Hamashiach, they're saying Yahushai, the Messiah, right? But the Messiah is the one who's been anointed and chosen, right? Anointing and choosing, really three words you got to always understand are very, like, they're like the same thing. Anointed, chosen, blessed. That's why it was always so important to receive your father's blessing of authority, because to get the blessing is getting the anointing. It's the same thing, right? But, and that's coming through that line of the Christos, right? But when you're dealing with the concept of Christus, and I've even people so slick, I've even heard different teachers and pastors say that on the pulpit. But if you're not, if you don't know, you don't know, right? You don't know. Oh, you casting spells, right? The term Christus means to be drunken, beguiled, or charmed, right? And of course, if you look at many mega churches, that's exactly what's happening. They're being put to sleep or they're being intoxicated with a particular idea or concept. But Christos means to be chosen and anointed, right? So sometimes even when you start having these conversations, like we said, like it was said in the chat earlier, like your word is bond, right? So if we're coming together under the word, like you're my woman, I'm your man, let's get together, let's da 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 da. Yeah, if we're coming together under the bond of Yahweh Shai HaMashiach, then we have something that's an eternal kind of linkage, or an eternal sort of chain. But you'll find that you have the most obstinate and hard-headed people who are coming under Jesus Christ, because they're coming under that Yeshua Christus, and they'll say, "Oh, it's the same thing." It's not the same thing. You just invoke something completely different, right? So yes, the woman has a say. I know you're like, man, you went all around the mulberry bush. Yeah, I'm giving it to you. So I asked because my understanding with the ketubah is that a woman can put needs within it. Is that a correct understanding? And of course, we answered that. Yeah. But again, keep in mind that you don't know what you need. You don't even know what you want, right? So when you speak about putting a need in it, that's typically going to be coming from your family. That's the beauty of it, because you get to sit down with your aunties and your uncles as well, who are going to put you up on game. Like, hey, make sure this is covered. Make sure that's covered. What's that life insurance policy looking like? Da 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 da. I understand that you may not know the combination to the safe, but if something happens, is it going to be distributed to you? Things like that, right? Because that's the beauty and the importance of having that family to be able to help to guide you into what you want. And even the same thing as a young man, if I'm looking to marry, I may speak to my uncles. Yeah, I like Judy, you know and my uncle might be like, look, man, Judy got the booty. So is it that you want Judy because you have an urge for the booty, or do you want Judy because you desire her? You see, which one is it? And I might have to think about it and say, man, you know what? I just have an urge for her. Okay, that's something different, right? I may not be totally clear on certain things. So the things that you would even include, because sometimes what we think and what we want is folly. You know, it feels right, it sounds right, and we may be able to intellectually prove some of the stances that we take, but in the long run, you need those elders who can tell you, you know, this is something you may have to be aware of. And sometimes certain things are based on them knowing you. I've shared that before on the platform years ago, and I remember I was like 7 or 8. My mother saying to me, "You're gonna need an older woman in your life." I remember her saying that clear as day, and me looking at her like, "Huh?" And cause always got on 2 different pairs of socks. Socks don't match. Always missing a belt loop. Shirt might be tucked into my underwear. you know. Um, and then as I got older, it was still, a little bit of that kind of happening. I developed systems to make sure, like, all right, my keys in my pocket. All right, cool. My this, that, that. But her looking and knowing her son, and knowing like, yeah, my son is, you know, he's got a lot of different things that he likes to do, and he doesn't care so much about the basics. Like, he might not eat. He might not eat. He might not go sleep in the bed tonight. Things like that. He needs someone who can kind of help to humanize him. Einstein was the same way. I'm not saying I have the genius of Einstein, but he was considered to be autistic actually. He had a similar kind of thing happening. So again, having the presence of those elders in that community can help you also to know what it is that needs to be included, not just so that your interests are met, but also because they may know how you may slip and fall, or the things that you may need for your development as well. That's the beauty of it. Everybody's making sure that you're all right, you know. Okay. Do you have a max timeline? This is Ipaco. Do you have a max timeline recommendation that contracts should have, Chief? It's it's forever. Forever. Everybody is different. For me, I have a every 3 year renegotiation, right? Um, but understand that. A renegotiation doesn't mean that am I going to stay with you or am I going to leave you, because there are certain reasons that I can put a woman away, and there's certain reasons that I can be divorced. But let's just say if I'm peace, Opera Randy. Let's just say if I'm with a sister and let's say she grows larger than I like, right? She gains 80, 90 pounds while we're together. According to my culture, I can't put her away for that. I can't say, even though I consider that to be extremely disrespectful. Like, and the same thing with me. If I come into the marriage and I'm 220, and then we get married and I'm 300 pounds, I think that's messed up. Now I got to subject you to that. And that's not necessarily what you signed up for. So out of respect, and I mean that, but that goes across the board. I'm also always going to look a certain way. Like I'm gonna dress a certain way. Like just because we're together now doesn't mean that like, oh, all right, cool. I'm just gonna slap on whatever's comfortable now. No. And the same thing I would expect you to always still want to be attracted, because that's a part of this. There's also kind of implied contracts, right? So implicitly, I know that chances are this sister wants me because of how I'm able to revolutionize and change her life, right? Like I tell sisters all the time, like sometimes they be like, "Well, what do you bring? What do you mean what I bring?" That's a stupid question, because I know I could talk to you in 5 minutes and fix 90% of the problems in your life. You can't do that for me, so you ain't ever got to ask me what I'm bringing to the table, because I know the value of wisdom and the gems that I have in my pocket. I'm very clear on that, right? So on the flip side, uh, she might say, "Well, what am I? What am I can't do that for you." Yeah, but maybe I just like how you look. Is there value in that? Yes. But the secular world will tell you something different. The secular world will tell you that I should value you because of your degree, because all of y'all are smart. That's the first thing you're all smart and beautiful, which is insane. You listen to any time a woman has to be encouraged in the secular world. It's two things they always say: you're smart, you're beautiful. Everybody's not smart. Everybody's not beautiful. you know, that's just not the case. I have women that I've dealt with who are not beautiful. You know, aesthetically, they're not aesthetically attractive. And I've had women I've dealt with who have asked me, "Do you think I'm pretty?" No, I don't think you're pretty. So, is that the end all be all? Do I have to find you pretty in order for us to be able to interact? Is there some other value that I can see in you beyond your surface, beyond your skin, beyond your aesthetic? Does that mean anything to you? Maybe you're not pretty, but you are so funny. Everything you say is funny. You're just hilarious. You're just a joy to be around. Like I had a sister. Um, Anytime we had a time when we were together, like waiting for something, she kept I'm laughing at. She kept all these like games in the trunk of her car. So anytime we were somewhere, like, and let's say we waiting for something, we got like an extra 20 minutes, she'd be like, "You want to play frisbee?" And I'm dead serious. Like in her trunk, she had frisbees. She had these big like hula hoops, all kind of stuff, and she would just be like, "Let's hula hoop. Let's." She always wanted to do something. Sometimes it was annoying because when it was time to do work, she would just like she wanted to go do something fun. But that was something I liked about her, right? We're together like it was always something quirky. She was down for anything. You know what I mean? Um, but I may have looked at her. She was also attractive, but I didn't care so much about that. What I really enjoyed about her is that we had fun. Like we like to you know, we like to have fun. Period. Like fun. So again, a lot of times you have to determine when you're looking at these contracts, you have to also think about what's important to me, what's valuable to me, not so much what the world is telling you, because the world tells you the same lie over and over. Me, the world tells you I'm violent, I'm abusive, I'm lazy, I don't appreciate you, I'm not a real man. You know the list. You know what brothers get. I'm all those things, right? And you're beautiful, you're smart, you're educated, you're attractive. Any man would kill to be with a woman, like, the same BS story. So you have to be able to, again, always have that sober assessment, make those decisions, even in terms of what do I really want at this point in life, right? um Sometimes sisters will say things to me like, oh, I could cook meals for you. I don't care about meals. I don't care. That doesn't mean anything to me. Especially at this age, because as we get older, we become more picky with our food anyway. As you get older, less stuff you eat. It's like, well, so you can cook the three things that I actually eat. Like, you cook that real well, huh? You know. Um, there's another important part to this, and this is important for women and men. I was reading a report the other day, and it triggered from something that I heard. It wasn't Minister Farrakhan, but it was a member of the Nation of Islam. I can't remember who, but they were talking about how married men. It might have been Sister Ava Muhammad. About how married men fare better than single men. And then I was reading something in a response to that, and it was saying that men who are married, on average, make 9 to 13% more per year in terms of their revenue streams. Men who are married. And I was reading the article, and I was like, yeah, but they don't keep that because they're married. you know so they end up having to spend more, and the reality is they have to make 9 to 13% more because they're married. See, this is why you got to really think outside the matrix, even when you look at marriage contracts. Why do companies always, when it comes time to promotion, if me and someone is up for the same position, and I'm a bachelor, but that person is married, that person is going to get the job, right? Because one of the things is, um, if this person's married, they're going to take more crap than I'm going to take. Because if you push me too much, I'm going to say F you. Because me as a bachelor, I go live in a shoebox. I'm out. I don't have maybe a wife and 3 or 4 children, or 2 or 3 children that I got to think about. So I got to sit here and deal with your crap and stuff like that. Plus, you never know if I'm just going to get up and leave, because I don't necessarily have those domestic attachments. So there's always this push to get married, have children, get a mortgage, tie you in for something for 30 years. By the time you finish paying the mortgage, it'd be time for us to lay you off anyway, give you the gold watch. So there's a whole system behind that you have to pay attention to. So even as you're putting together your ketubah, you know, if you have a ketubah, you're already thinking outside of the system. So you might as well just keep it going. Like, well, let's really, if we're gonna be free, let's really be free, and let's really be honest about what it is that we may desire, or what our lifestyle may look like. Marriage for me is not settling down, right? I know me, I know my lifestyle. Marriage, I don't even use the term marriage, I'm using it here. But union for me is not, I found a sister I like, we're gonna get a spot in wherever and we're gonna settle down, and that's not me, right? So as I usually tell women, I'm not really marriage material. Like, if you want that guy who's now gonna sit with you, and I don't even know what they do. I don't know what they do. Whatever they married people do, like, sometimes I see them at the Walmart. Like, we're gonna go to the Walmart at night, and our children gonna be running around playing with the bikes and stuff in the toy section, while we over here buying stuff, stools and brisket for the barbecue and stuff like. I'm not that guy, right? So does that mean that I can't have a committed union? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that I know what has to be in my contract, and I know, even going through a courtship, what to express to a sister, to make it clear, like, this is my matrix. Now, whatever I do is still within the laws that the Most High has given to me. So it's not like I'm just over here making up my own stuff and winging it. But I know, just like how each tribe has its own personality, each person has its own personality. Some are nomadic, right? So some sisters might be like, oh, good, we can get a house down the street from my mother because she's getting older and it's a nice neighborhood. And then some will be like, I want to hit the road. Let's, yeah, I'm your woman now. Let's go. Everybody has a different kind of thing, and that's something that you have to be honest about as a man and as a woman. It's okay to tell a brother, like, you know, um, even coming into a situation, it's okay to tell a brother, like, I'm really locked into the sense of entrepreneurship, right? Now that should be a clue to a man. Like, so if I'm a man and I work a 9 to 5 and I meet a woman who's saying, "Hey, I'm locked into that spirit of entrepreneurialism," I already know that she's not necessarily going to want to stay at home and make food and bake cookies. Not to say that there can't be entrepreneurialism within that context and managing resource and things like that, but she may already have that bug, which may have been something that was given to her by her father or given to her by her mother. So there may be a certain thing, doesn't mean I have to go out and start my own business, but there may be a certain level and a certain understanding that I need to understand as we're going through the courtship. So when it's time for marriage, we can have certain kind of conversations, and she can trust me in certain kind of ways because I've prepared myself to accommodate a woman of this shape. You know, um, so that's a part of it too. That's why that honest and open discourse is so important in a courtship. So you really know if you can cover this sister. You know, if you meet a sister and she tells you, "Hey, I got a business and we're making $6 million a year, and I'm looking to really expand, but I don't know what direction to go next." And you know, you've been working the same job for 15 years and you're making $140,000 a year, and you think you're doing it, you know, and you just waiting to retire, you may have difficulty covering someone like that. In all fairness, you know. All right, so that's the deal with that. Um, Go to the next one. So yeah, max time on contract is forever. You know, one thing I'll tell you about this, because sometimes people get caught up in the questions and stuff. Life is short. It goes by in a twinkling of an eye. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't overcomplicate it. Go with your primal urge. Start there. I'm gonna be honest. Two things that make this easy: primal urge and righteousness. You find a righteous woman or a righteous man, they trigger you in a certain primal way. That's it. Don't, you know, all it's because a lot of the waiting and the questions and the planning and the stuff that we do. And I'm not saying that you should not study. If you read my book Noir Mel, I speak about that. You know, we should become like experts in this, but in the same instance, sometimes the overcomplication that we pour into it is because we're afraid, and because we're still trying to see how our Disney wedding ideas can apply within a righteous context. So a lot of it is like, well, I know when I do my contract, I know when I do. Do you have a contract? Because if you heard me speak about a marital contract 3 months ago, I'm just saying, just putting a time out there. If you heard me speak about it 3 months ago, and today you don't have a marital contract, whether you're single or not, you're not serious. You're not serious. Because a marital contract could be the simplest thing in the world. It doesn't have to be all this extra stuff you put. You're romanticizing the experience. Marital contract could be, I won't cheat on you, don't cheat on me. Don't feed me pork. But then again, you shouldn't have to say that because if we're both righteous, we both know we don't eat pork. This is what I'm saying. When you find a righteous person, that woman already knows what to do, which is the blessing. The man already knows what to do. You're not sitting there scratching your head trying to figure out how to raise somebody up because their father didn't do what they were supposed to do or their mother didn't do what they're supposed to do. So now you're trying to reverse 20, 30, 40 years of malfunction and malformation and trying to figure out, well, how do I tell them, you know, brother, you supposed to hold us down. Brother, when the doorbell rings, you supposed to be the one to answer it, not sending me. You know, how do I tell the sister, you know, you can't keep feeding me hot pockets, you know, or you can't go out looking like you selling coochie, you know, like how do I tell her that, or you know, the house is filthy, you know, or when you come to my place, you know, or there's a long list of things that it could be, right? Um, when you get with someone who's righteous, they already know what they, you know, and that becomes the beautiful blessing. They jump in ready to rock. Let's do. I know what I got to do. You know, I know how to properly serve. That's the thing. And I'm gonna say straight up. And again, I know people don't really want to hear stuff like this, but you know, there was a kinder um, live on the Anu Ministries channel. I'm just, you know, giving it, you know, follow up from that. But if you don't like these concepts, that's cool too. Um, Straight up and down, if a woman doesn't come to you saying, "How can I serve you?" it's not gonna work out. It's simple. It shouldn't be. You get this sometimes. Let's say if a woman is trying to launch a business and she sees you know how to do flyers or you know how to do logo. Ooh, you could help me with my business. Ooh, you could do my logo. That ain't gonna work because that's not what we were ordained to be. I wasn't ordained and created to help you. You were created to help me. So if she doesn't come like Abigail and she's humbly come with true real humility, how can I serve you? It's not gonna work out. Now, if that woman says, like I said, most of y'all don't know what to do with a righteous woman anyway. If she says, "How can I serve you?" and you start rambling on foolishness, you lost her. Oh well, you know it says, "How can you serve me?" I was thinking about doing this. I was thinking about doing that. I'm trying to look into doing this. I'm trying to look into that. You're a clown. She knows you're a clown, especially depending on your age, right? If you're 30, 35, 40, and a woman comes and says, "How can I serve? What is it that you want me to do?" and you're not already, you should damn, I'm gonna tell you, brothers, how you do it. Have your list together. Like you know what your empire looks like, right? So let's say if we have an empire, we have a kingdom. Look at all the different people that go into running a kingdom. Write the job descriptions. Copy and paste the jobs if you need to. Spokesperson, minister of information, minister of resources, librarian, technology expert, health and wellness. You could go right through the list. Uh, Program manager, da da da, psychologist, all these different things that go into keeping an empire or a business going. And you can have the job descriptions ready. Sister says, "How can I help you? What can I do?" All right, sis, well, here we go. These are the positions that we have open. You can be the family psychiatrist. Let me get your qualifications. Not that sounds good because I like a lot of people come to me for advice. Yeah, I hear you. Let me get some qualifications. Listen, let me tell you, don't be afraid, and this is even in the courtship phase, to ask for resumes. In the beginning, I used to always do that. I stopped doing it because I don't really need to as much because I ask questions now. But I used to literally ask for resumes. I want to see your resume. Let me. It's a lot easier than you telling me, yeah, when I was young, I used to work for my cousin. No, let me see the resume. Let me see what you show those people. Let me see how you sell yourself to those people, right? Let me see the consistency I can see. I got a good friend of mine. He likes to go overseas a lot to interact with women. And I told him something recently. I was like, yo, you got to do this. And he started doing it. I was like, yo, start to ask for two things. One, a birth certificate, and two, a record of, in this particular country, you can get a record to show if the person is married or not. I said, you need to get that. Get those two things. Birth certificate, find out if the person is married or not. Now, why is that? Because he goes to a particular place where the guys are really pretty. They're really pretty. They're so pretty that, in fact, there's a guy that used to work for me from the place where he goes, and he just loves the women there. And I remember when we first met, I'm looking at him like, man, this dude is super like pretty. Like he had all these like real gentle features and everything like this. And I'm like, I could see how you could easily a couple little tweaks you could trick someone into like something that you were not born as, you know? Just the way he looked, he had his hair was and all that. So I was like, you need to get a birth certificate. You need to look and see what their name was when they were born, and some other things, some other vital stats that would be on the birth certificate. And you also need to find out they're married, right? So when you're in a courtship, depending on the cultural context, there might be certain things that you would ask for, or certain things that you would look up, yada yada yada, right? Um, so that's what I'm saying with that. So now let's go to the next one. So what does proper conflict resolution for something like that when it comes to establishing a marriage contract with beefing families? Is it even salvageable or is it a no go? Well, think about it. If you have two families that are beefing, you're looking at two families that are living under a curse, right? Part of the curse of disobedience against our divine nature is that brother will turn against brother. Like, why do you think in North America there was a civil war? You know, and what was the Civil War over? The Civil War was over the people. The Civil War was about. Well, it wasn't really about that. That's what they told us later. But I don't want to get in that because one day I was gonna do a piece once in breaking down to people what the Confederacy really is. But I was like, I just don't feel like the headache because people are not ready to hear that you should be just as afraid whatever flag you see, whichever if it's that one, if it's the blue, white, and red one, or if it's the orange and blue, either one should have you kind of nervous. And in fact, the one that you think is a safe one, you should be more afraid of that one than the other one because it wasn't about what you think it's about, you know. But anyway, um, like I said, I'm not gonna do that segment. People are not ready. But that was a part of the curse, right? You went and you subjugated the Most High's people. You went and subjugated the most divine, electrically highly capacitated people on the planet. That's who you decided to subjugate. So now I'm going to tear your family apart. You know, you think about, and this is again, we have shadow refractions of what happens in the divine, right? So we know even when we look at Genesis, man was made before man was fashioned physically, right? There was a time period first, he let us make man in our image and in our likeness, right? The Elohim said. So the Elohim's likeness is spirit or tachyon energy, right? So that's what man was made. And then later, man had a body, right? So we know that things that happen in the spiritual then later unfurl themselves into the physical. No different than when the waters were separated between the firmaments. And I'm sharing some of this. We were looking at some of this recently. Um, some of the sisters in the annex. Now I call it the annex because within Anu we have a covering initiative, as some of you are aware of. So of course I have my harem, but the sisters who I cover inside of Anu are a part of what I call the annex to my harem, right? That's the platonic, aspect of it. But nonetheless, so we were talking about creation stories and things like that during our study time, right? And the thing about it is that in that story, you see there's a separation of waters. There were some waters that were lifted up into the firmament of the heavens, and some that remained on earth. And if you look at the old stories of like Gilgamesh, you go back to the old Sumerian stories, it's the same thing in the beginning. The waters were separated, and essentially I'm gonna break that down. I decided I'm gonna do a Genesis breakdown, and y'all can still ask questions. Feel free. I know there was a lot of questions from the last one. I think the women are doing their Sabbath night call right now, so they may not be here. But feel free if you have questions, you can throw them in the chat. I'm just following up from what they were teaching earlier. Um, like I said, for those who came late, they were having tech issues. Their audio was going out, so I said I'll do a live and I'll keep the vibes going. But yeah, you read that old story, and there was a separation of the waters, and essentially what those waters were, there were waters that went to like the heavens, and those waters were pure, and then there were waters that went lower, and those waters were impure. So essentially, there were benevolent deities that were in the pure water, and there were malevolent deities that were in the dirty water. This is a story before your Genesis story, right? So just so you're like, well, I didn't read that in the Bible. This is before the Bible, right? Um, Now, what is that really? The separation of the good from the bad, but it being represented as water. That's your thoughts. So within you, and then remember you had Tiamat, the dragon, and she was in the midst of that, and you also had your other archetype, which we'll get into. Um, and those deities were making too much noise. It's a whole long story. That's why I don't get into all of it. But the simple part that I'm telling you is that there was a separation of waters. Some of the water was good, some of it was not so good, and really that represents your subconscious and your higher conscious, like your lower thoughts where they're more animalistic and monstrous and demonic, and then your higher thoughts where it's more benevolent and more pulling towards your purpose, if you will. So that idea of separating this from that, but that also brought forth more deities. Long story to that. So even within a marital sense or within a relationship sense, or if you're looking at again a Genesis story, there's an effect that comes from the way you're doing certain things. So when you ask the question like, how do you rectify that? The issue with warring families is not an issue of, well, we just need to sit down at the table and talk. It's a spiritual issue because a warring family is the separation of waters. It's the separation of that thing that was once one. So now you have angels and demons that are operating, and you have angels and demons operating within your kin because of the fact that you've somewhere along the line there's been some curses violated. So that's the thing that would have to be addressed. Now, the reason I give you all of that, and one day I'll break those stories down. The Sumerian tales. I'm working. Actually, I was going to do a poll. I don't know how to start a poll, but I was going to do a poll in this one and ask how y'all would like to do. Can I? No, I can't. Just thinking about bringing back some like how I was doing the Commander Days, a regular series again. And I said next time I go live or do a video, I see people who could put polls inside of them. I don't know, whatever. I'll just do a post or something at another time. Um, so you have to ask yourself, do I want to mate into a cursed family? You see, okay, need a series. QNC number one fan says need a series. Okay, yeah, that's one. That's one vote. Um, so yeah, because Commander Day that was what last year I think something like that. But it's been a minute. This one won't be as long. That was 44 segments. So I was thinking doing something like maybe I had a number, but let's just say I don't want to tell you the number yet. But it would be under 30, under 30 segments. You can do a poll on Instagram. I cannot do a poll on Instagram, Brother Antonio. Remember, my Instagram is restricted for still some reason that I do not know. I've sent emails and all that. I've done all the things they said to do. They're just not bringing it back. However, interesting enough, because it's been restricted since last year, June, and now I can click like on people's posts. I couldn't click like on anything before. I still can't comment. I still can't put captions under my own post. I can't follow people. People can't tag me, and I can't put like long video, anything over a minute. I can put up a video. I can put up a picture. Whenever I go to put up a story, a little 15 peace, 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 brother, peace, peace, Johnny, integrated boxing. Whenever I put up a what do you call those things story, 15-second one, it always says it didn't upload, and then like maybe 40 minutes later it will show. But then even when it does, like it doesn't. A lot of people don't see it because the numbers will be real low. So they still got me restricted. So I no, I cannot do any. Are you considered on the blackout list along with the other woke speakers? I hope not. I don't want to be considered with none of those woke people. I hope not. I'm not a part of that. I ain't a part of none of that. That woke stuff. I've spoken about that before. I don't even like the term. I think it's stupid. Woke. I mean, it was a cool song by Erica Badu, like, the whole state. But outside of that, I think it's dumb. Stay woke. I'm woke. Shut up. When I first heard it, it sounded stupid to me. Shut up. You woke. Sometimes you got to sleep. Sleep is where you become creative. And not to say I'm just breaking down the semantics of it because it's just stupid either way. It sounds stupid. I hate it. And That's how it's just another level of the infiltration of a movement. That's all. It's just another deeper level of it. You know, we went from pro black to conscious to woke. Nobody even says pro black anymore. Like that. All of the that's where we began though. When I first came into the community long time ago, it was a very small community. It wasn't a lot of, like, now it's all kinds of people, but way before YouTube and stuff like that, and it was about black liberation. So we were very interested in what people like Minister Farrakhan had to say. We were very interested in what people like Francis Cress Welsing had to say, Anthony Browder had to say, Marimba Ani, later on, your Amos Wilsons had to say, you know, back then Conrad Muhammad, he's not Conrad Muhammad anymore, but he was in the Nation of Islam. He was young brother. These are the people, even Sister Soldiers, these are the people who we were very interested in hearing from. And it was a very small collective. It wasn't, there could be lectures that went on that came and gone by Dr. Ben or Dr. Clark or Automatics and these different people. You wouldn't even know, because you might get a flyer, you might not. You find out later, oh, he was down there such and such. He was over at this school, doing a talk about this or whatever. And you might go to a talk, and it might be 35, 40 people there, something like that. A Jeannie Baines, go hear her speak. It might be some students in there from like one of the CUNY schools, but it wasn't this big huge thing that it later became when it got on YouTube. Then it became about like personalities. It wasn't so much about liberation. It was about who I F's with. I F's with so and so. This one I F's with. So it became about really now the personality thing. And that stay woke thing had nothing to do with the liberation of melanin dominant people. If I did yoga or I ate healthy, I got to pass into the community. It didn't matter if I wanted something well for people who look for me or people who were oppressed or anything. If I just did something that was considered alternative, maybe I made jewelry or something like that, or I taught credit repair. Now I'm in the conscious community. You know what I mean? Around that time, I stepped off anyway. I was like, this is corny. I'm not doing this. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not interested. And then it went from that to now it's you got the SJWs. The social justice warriors. That's that whole woke thing. You know what I mean? And it's trash, and it's just to disassemble a particular momentum that we actually were beginning to gather and come up with, man. And I'm not saying that people who don't look like me are not responsible for the demise. I'm not saying that. And some people who you guys probably even like a lot, but I saw the damage that they were doing when they came in, when it started to become about, just like I said, just consciousness in the cult. This conscious, man. You got to raise your conscious awareness. For what? No, you don't. No, you don't. Not necessarily. You just got to do the work. I know some soldiers that ain't that bright, but they putting that pain in, they putting that work in. It's not about everybody's got to rate, because that's just a way to keep everybody doing nothing. You know, so yeah, man. I know I went off on a whole little tangent about that, but am I blacklisted? Yeah, heck yeah, y'all know that. That's not even a secret at this point. I'm definitely blacklisted, man. All this information and people, when they finally do come across my stuff, they're like, oh my goodness. Um, I'll give you something right here. Like, my subscribers right now on this channel, this one is probably like 2,100, something like that. Do you know I get new subscriber notifications like almost every day? And I've added them up before, and I'm like, I should be way up there. But for a year, it would not go past 2,165. It would not, the number would not move. 2,165. And then I started speaking to other people who were going through similar, and they're like, yo, I got, every time I'm in, like, Me, when I'm in the streets, a lot of times people spot me. I've had that happen. Like people watching, like, oh, Chief, oh, I recognize your voice. I had that happen several times. I'm somewhere talking like, I know the voice, right? But that number was not moving, right? So, yeah, definitely been blocked and banned, and that's on all platforms. You know, um, yeah, that's on all platforms. I put up some music not too long ago, and on a different. I'm not even gonna say the name of the thing. I mean, they probably know it's me, but yeah, like in the first couple of days, it was like 4,000 views. Then I had it on another platform, 11,000 views. you know so I was like, yeah, okay, so it's not that the content is bad, it's me. It's that name. When they see that name, bring it down. Or block them, restrict them, because even the video I got the strike for, other people had it up. Not that I'm snitching, but other people had the same video up, but mine, they blocked my channel and took the video down. So yeah, it is what it is. I don't care, man. You still got to be you, regardless of what social media is talking about, right? You got to be you, and hopefully you were you before you got onto these platforms. So, and at the end of the day, like I always say, you get what you pay for. So I'm not one to be riffing, because I think that's a part of the trick bag. When you start riffing about how you're being treated on these people's platforms, that means you're starting to look at it as a human right. I have a right to have a YouTube channel. I have a right to have an IG. So now it's become so infused within your culture that it's like you look at it like driving. You look at it like being able to go to the store and buy something or whatnot, and you don't realize that this is all. First of all, these are all private companies. Number one, and they don't necessarily have to be a part of your everyday. They don't have to be a part of your movement, and they're not a legislated right to be able to use one of these platforms or whatever. So I don't stress it. I pay for podcasting every month. I know I haven't done a podcast in like a year, but I actually pay for my own hosting, right? For my podcast every month. I still pay, and I also have a pro. Um, yeah, whatever. I have a pro Vimeo account. I wasn't gonna say the name of it. So if I ever get completely shut out, and I have websites, this chiefuyah.com. Like I own like 40 websites. So I got my websites. I got a pro Vimeo account. I can upload as much video as I want, and I have podcasting platforms that I also pay for. So I have my redundancy. If they ever say, hey, get off completely, no biggie. I got places that I can put content and I could point y'all to, and I have a mailing list. Everybody get an email. I'm over here now. So that's, you have to kind of move with that. But when you start becoming dependent on these people's system like that, then you have now tied yourself back into the matrix. Because don't forget, social media is the matrix. What is the matrix? Where you go to live out a life, right? But outside of you investing and injecting yourself into that space, there's nothing. So when you go to IG or Twitter or any of these platforms, and all of your emotions are there, because you notice you're usually not as animated outside of that, right? You could be looking at somebody's picture and you'll put LOL underneath it, but you're not actually laughing physically. You could have a deadpan face like, and then you'll type LMAO, laughing my ass off. You're not though, actually, right? So you've put all of your real emotion and all your feeling inside of that matrix, and outside of it, just like the film, everything is gray and dull and boring. You see, so once you start to see what's really happening there, everybody keep talking about the matrix. They got us in the matrix. No, you got yourself in the matrix. You made the matrix. They didn't make it. You made it. You made your own avatar. This is what I'm going to look like when I'm there. I'm always going to shoot from this angle, whatever. I'm going to do that. You did that, you know. So when you become so dependent upon that matrix and that avatar that you create and that false representation, that's when they got you. So for me, I don't care about that. I wrote emails, say, yo, whoop de whoop. And after a while, I stopped. I said, all right. whatever. Whatever. I'm still you, yeah. Whatever. No big deal. So yeah, that's the deal with that. Anyway, let me get back to these questions on marriage and all that. I saw another one. There was, is it even right? You were talking about, families getting together and is that type of bad blood. Uh, I don't really suggest it because, you got to look beyond the physical arguments as well, man. Let's talk about the blending of spirits. Yes, uh, you know, species are considered to be within the same genus when they're able to reproduce, right? So if I can go reproduce with a woman from Papua New Guinea, or from Beijing, or from Guatemala, then we're considered to be within the same species. But that's from a scientific perspective, right? That may not necessarily be how I look at it, right? So, you know, sometimes there's certain blends that are not supposed to happen. Like the brother who told you earlier, like, yeah, when I stood in for his knocking, and I remember his mother was adamant. He's Yoruba and his wife is Igbo, right? And one of the first things she said to me, she said, she won't even know how to make soup the way the way we make soup. And I'm like, okay, like to me it's it doesn't mean the same for me, but I'm also from and this is like I said many years ago, but from a conceptual perspective, I'm trying to look at it and say, okay, and the soup is very similar. I've had it in both places. It's very similar, but yeah, maybe there's certain this is how we get the emergence of certain let me choose my words, disorders. We get the emergence of certain disorders, right? Or the reemergence of certain disorders, right? Was talking about this stuff is how I got strike before. before. But it's our human activity. It's globalization. It's the different things that we do that can accelerate the reemergence of certain disorders or uneases on the planet. You know, so it could be something as simple like from in this region where we're from, we use this sort of pepper because maybe this is the pepper that we need in order to properly synthesize the systems within us. And in their region, they use that sort of pepper over there. And that sort of pepper over there burns the lining of our stomach and gives us ulcers. You see? And I might be tasting each soup and like, they both hot. It was the difference, you know. Um, but it is that learning how to maintain the homeostasis of a people is more complex than just making sure that your pH levels are balanced and your system is alkalinized because your body will do that automatically by itself unless there's some sort of disruption that you're putting into your system that is messing up that homeostasis. So sometimes the things that we look at as small, even the beef between families, we'll say, oh, this family is warring with that family. That sometimes we might look at it and not really understand that these are two different spiritual tribes and species that should not necessarily blend, even though they may look similar. They may look similar, and they may even be able to reproduce. But what exactly is it that they're reproducing? And does that reproduction cause any level of genetic mutation? Even on the smallest level, which can later amount to something larger. So I would say if you are a part of a family and you see someone you're interested in and your family is riffing with their family, before you just say, oh, it was a misunderstanding or this or that, you have to go into a deeper mentation because your two families may be a part of an um two ancient warring clans, and this could be deeper than just what you're experiencing on the physical. There could be spiritual war that's going on between those two clans. And then what happens now when you produce a baby? So the child is not just, physically, a physical expression of you two coming together, but there's also a spiritual expression of you two coming together. And now what you're producing in that moment, or what you're producing at that time, now you're producing disagreeables, as we call it. Now, why do some children come through as disagreeables, where they just won't act right? They just, you just cannot. They love to stir up trouble. They love to stir up problems. Well, because look at the vibration that you've created them under. You've created them under disagreeable, a disagreeable premise. So they come through with that, because the first thing that they come through with is, I really have nothing that you can hold me to, because I have no claiming of my spiritual, or my divine legislative reference, right? You see that a lot in the culture communities, right? Some of the biggest scammers that's out there, you want to know something that they all have in common? Some of the biggest scammers, either their religion keeps switching up, or they don't have a religion. Or they tell you a religion is just something so stupid, doesn't even make sense. Because without that, you have no standard that you can hold them to. They say, you know what, it's not about the religion. Let's just talk about the work. Let's just put the work in. Because we start talking about religion, we're going to argue. We don't have to argue. Tell me what you are, and that's cool. You over there, I'm over here. Whoop-de-whoop. But if you start doing something that's in violation of those protocols, I can hold you to it now. You see? So now you think about when you have two warring families that come together, or the families still don't come together, but two individuals from two warring families that come together. And again, there can be ancestral issues with those two, which may have caused the problems to begin with. And those two come together, and now a child is born. Which side of the family claims the child? It's just like in any household, when parents are arguing and going at each other, the children are left to their own, because no one is really claiming them. So what happens? The child never really gets a proper structure that it's supposed to operate and live under. So it goes out and becomes a scammer. It goes out and becomes a thief. It goes out and becomes a con woman or a con man, because no one actually claimed me from a spiritual perspective. I am not the culmination of two great ideas coming together. I am not the culmination of harmony, because a sexual experience, a war experience, a dance experience is supposed to be the recreation of the heavenly dynamic. Now, the heavenly dynamic is the life dynamic. So whenever, that's why coitus is so enjoyable for us, because when we experience coitus for a moment, we get to feel what it's like to be alive again, to actually be life, not just to have a temporary moment where we get some life passing through us. Not just that, but we get to experience to be being the generators of life, to be the life producers, the life creators, the life givers. Because in the celestial realm, there's oneness, right? So that oneness is where life, where it spawns from. It's just like, again, like the Sumerian tales, when Tiamat is killed, her body is ripped apart, and the heavens are created, and these other gods come from the destruction of her body. But together there's a oneness, right? So when you have a child under those type of conditions, that child is not an expression of heaven. That child, in fact, is an expression of earth. And a full expression of earth without the presence of the mother, or without the presence of the Messiah, is what we call, like, when you watch movies, and the movies are about like the Great Tribulation, or end times, or the rapture. Some of you may have seen movies like, it was in the 80s, we had Left Behind, Leftovers was a series. The Day After, I think, was another one, like in 1984. There's a bunch of them, right? But essentially what those movies are about is what the world would look like once the spirit of the Messiah is extracted from it. And now it's just functioning on its own energy, or its own ashe. This is what it looks like when it doesn't have the spirit of the Christos, not the Christus, sustaining it, right? So when you come together and you create a child under those sort of conditions, you have not created a bond underneath the matrix of the Messiah. You've created an earthly thing based on your desires. And I say thing, not a force. So now what is that child? A disagreeable, warlike, you know, doesn't know where it fits in. You find that a lot with certain children of certain blends. I'm just going to use that term. One common thing they always say is, I never knew where I fit in. I never knew where I fit in. Yeah, because we couldn't claim you properly. You see, we couldn't claim it. You know, if I do have a child, let's say with let's say if I was able to produce a child with a monkey, right, a chimpanzee. Scientists tell us that we share 98% of the same DNA. Chimpanzee, and you know what, or we could say a banana. You know, scientists have also told us that our genetic matrix, the DNA that we share 40% of the same type of DNA sequence as we would with a banana. 40%. So let's just say with that 40%, I'm able to reproduce something. I don't even know what it would look like, right? Um, who claims it? Does the banana kingdom claim this child? And now this child lives by the auspices as well as the taboos of the banana kingdom? Or does the divine ones experiencing a human reality, do they claim the child? Or do we make up something in between, which would really now be an abomination? We create an abominable culture, you see. So I know that's a very long explanation, but it's a very important question that you asked, because the purity of the bloodline is everything. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. The people who tell you that it doesn't mean anything are the most impure people. They're the ones that always tell you, "I don't sweat that, doesn't matter. It's all about love." And get out of here with that. It ain't all about that. You know, my sheep hear my voice and they know it. My sheep, not the world. No, my people know me, not the whole world. You see, so it's not about us creating this homogenous blob. It's about respecting that there are streams of cognition. You think about if there was a improper blending, the technology of the Ark of the Covenant wouldn't have even worked. When you look at the 12 stones that were designated, the 12 gems to be put on the breastplate of the high priest, they said, you know, make four rows of three, right? And back then, the way they would speak to the Most High through it. Now, if you understand how the Ark of the Covenant, it was all inlaid with gold and everything. This was a radio. This was a radio, right? And if you touched it a certain way, you would die. Yeah, that's what happens when you could take a. They don't have them, but back in the days, I used to have this thing. I used to really be in electronics. You know, my father taught me how to work with circuit boards and things like that. And my thing was, I used to love to go in the garbage and like fix old TVs, or like in my room I had like 50 speakers. You know, I used to always like rebuild amps and stuff like that people would throw out. And one of the things, like, when he first taught me how to use a soldering iron and things like that, and how to read the ohm, when you look at a capacitor, and you could look at the color stripe and see how many ohms it is based on the stripe. There's a code to all of this. But he would always point to the large capacitors, like on the big back TVs, and he'd say, "Don't touch that. It doesn't matter if the TV's been sitting outside for a month or two." He would always say, "There's always an electrical charge in that right there. Do not touch that." And you'd see it with all the copper wire, you know, run around it, and yeah, there's still a charge in it, right? It'll knock you on your behind. There's still a charge in that thing, right? That's what the Ark of the Covenant was, right? It was a capacitor. I'll break that down to you one day. I'll get into that with you. Um, but just imagine if the tribes were not properly segregated and ordered. They would have used the wrong stones. When he said, this one you use the sapphire, this one you use the amethyst, This one you use the onyx, so forth and so on. What if there was an improper blending? And remember, they were all related. So this should be good. This should be all right. But each stone and each tribe had a different energy. You see, Gad, the tribe of Gad, they were the warriors. Dan, they were the judges. Judah, they were the praisers. Levi, they were we could go on and on and on, right? And each one had a specific stone that represented its energy. And through these different stones and this technology, you'd put the breastplate on, and now I can communicate with the Most High, right? The Al-An, or the Eleon, which is one of the old terms we used to use, Eleon, Elyon, right? But you could spell it Elyon. You could do it that way, or you could just say Alien, Al, divine An, or En, or the I. When you see the I in between, it specifies like person, and then you have the An, which is short for Anu, Al, Eon, Alian, Alian, Alien. So we were able to communicate with the aliens that we called the Most High through the Ark of the Covenant. But that breastplate, this was a technical device, an electronic device. If we had been blending improperly, we would have used the wrong stones. We want to listen. Say, oh, we ain't got to do rows of three and all that. Because you remember back then, the king would stand behind the high priest or the operator of the device and would face his back and would ask the questions. So the only one who could face because remember the way they would carry it from behind like this. They couldn't turn to face it. Why? Because the people carrying it don't have the technology, the breastplate. You probably just thought it was for fashion, right? And he would stand behind him and he would ask the question in his ear, and then he would speak to the ark. But this was a highly charged electrical device. Well, one day. People ain't really ready to hear that too much, so that's why another time. But anyway, so with that being said, that blending it can be dangerous, right? That's just to answer the question about if two families are warring, should they get together? I wouldn't suggest it. I would, we have our designations for a reason, and sometimes, like I know, especially for us who are melanin dominant, because we are so confused about our story and our origin, which ain't really that hard to find out. We just so quick to grab on anything. Everything is us, you know. Anything we see or anybody who's got a little bit of chocolate in them, that's us. Oh, you black, and that's just not true. That's just a silly conception. That's just not true. We are all a devolving of what we once were. You know, um, I know without a shadow of a doubt, there was a time when people were purple. There was a time when people were green. There was a time when people were blue. There was a time when people were red. There were a time when people were different colors. And then eventually through the devolving, we started to kind of beige out, if you will. We started to beige out. So even when we look at like, oh, that they highly melanated, they're deep chocolate. Green is melanated too. Red is melanated too. Now of course you can read the stories, about the rubinoids and things like that, but and the albinoids and stuff. But yeah, there was a time when we were different colors. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out. Anyway, it's not that hard to figure out. So let me go to the next one. So I think I got all the questions. I think. Um, can that genetic mutation work to your benefit in terms of uniting families? Nah. Thanks for the super chat, Sister Michelle. Um, nah. There's a difference between mutation and evolving. Sickle cell anemia is a mutation. You know, um, that's a part of the trick. See, like and I know we talking about marital contracts, so I'm gonna try to keep it in the same thing as what the sisters were talking about because they were doing such a beautiful job. Um, You know, the thing about it, when you talk about mutations and that's a trick bag that we always get caught in. Because we could do it, let's do it, right? And not understanding that you came to the planet in order to experience a certain reality with even with certain handicaps. So, you know, you look at it like this. If we're in school and let's say you're in the sixth grade, I'm in the eighth grade, right? Or the ninth grade even. I'm in high school, you're in sixth grade. And everything that you experienced, or let's say at one point I'm allowed to be a teacher's assistant. I get the answers to the tests, I got the cheat sheet, yada yada yada. And I go to the playground parking lot and I'm like, hey kid, come over here. Come in. You want the answer to the test? Huh? You want to pass? You want to here's the answers. Right? Just give me some candy. Give me your Halloween candy. Give me your Halloween candy. And I'll give you powers that the other people don't have. I'll give you a cheat sheet. Right? Now you tell me, should you be cheating your way through the experience? Or should you be going through just because you can get the cheat sheet for an exchange for some candy, for some treats? I hope you understand what I'm saying. I hope you understand the parable in that. Just because you can do that, should you do it? Or did you come down here to go through the process? Or do you get beguiled by a spirit that says, I'll give you superpowers? Think about it like this. There's a lot of people within the culture community who are fixated. Like I've said it so many times when I'm doing lectures, if I'm talking about character, honor, integrity, it's like, soon as I say, okay, let me give you a ritual for wealth. Hold on a second. Brother, you got a pencil I could borrow? Oh, hold on a second, G. Hold on before you go on. Hold on. I just want to go to the car and get my recorder. Now you all ears. But when I was speaking about how to develop yourself into a better person, into a person who doesn't have to do wealth rituals every 5 minutes, you didn't want to hear that. You want the magic. You want give me the magic, which doesn't really work for you anyway. Now, with all that magic, we could go on any retailer's website or store. We can get all these spell books, potions, this, that, and the third. Why doesn't our collective existence look much better? Or you go to certain countries to get initiated. Oh, the powerful, this is there. Why are those usually the poorest places? Why are those usually the poorest places? Something that somebody hasn't figured out yet. You see, just because you can do the magic, it doesn't mean that that's the key to work yourself through life. So what? I did a segment once, and it's on the thing, and this brother called in. He was all hyped up. I think it was Eileen Bay. No, it was Yusuf L. And he was talking about how he has learned how to stop, like, astral project his whole body across the street, and he can levitate. And he was like, so are the things and he wasn't even listening. I'm like, an idiot. But he's like, so the things you're talking about right now, he was like, are you talking about that? Are you talking about doing that? Because that's the level I'm at, brother. And I'm like, that's not what we're talking about. And I was kind, partly because I was on somebody else's platform, so I didn't want to, be like, shut the f up, you know. But the thing about it is like, okay, you can levitate. Now what? Does that bring you any closer to your creator and your maker? Can you fly to your creator? You gonna do a Tower of Babel thing, or gosh darn crate challenge? You gonna do a crate challenge and build some crates up to Anu or Uranus, light of heaven, Anu? You gonna build some crates up to heaven? You gonna levitate up to Anu? So what you could levitate? So what you could astral project? So what sometimes you have dreams and then after you wake up, the same thing you dreamt about happened. We have powers. We have powers. Remember, in the beginning, he created heaven and earth. Heaven translates into wind or breath. He breathed the breath of life. Man became a living soul, or the ruach. They're using two different words there, but it's the same concept of breath. Heaven is within you. So if I have heaven within me, don't you think I would probably have some kind of special powers? But is the real trick and the real magic tricks? Or is it discovering the treasures of heaven? Did I come down here just to impress people with magic tricks? Or to impress myself with magic tricks? Because ultimately, I'm still stuck and attached within a mental construct, a material construct. Yeah, I can levitate, brother. I can astral project. So what? Everybody astral projects. It's not a big deal. Go have a dream. That's an astral projection. Arguably, this is an astral projection. Heck, this live I'm on right now is an astral projection. Am I not? Are you not hearing me? Are you not seeing me? But we're not in the same place? Wow. So now, because we're able to use this technology and do this, does this mean now that we've arrived and we are the Most High? Isn't that the same mistake we made in ancient Kemet? Isn't that the same thing we did? We're doing this. We're doing open heart surgery. We're doing eye surgery. We're using these pyramids to go from Mexico to here to there to there to there to there. We are like we're the Necharu. No, you think so? I'm going to show you how much you are not me. Watch this. It's not about the magic tricks. So a lot of times we get tricked into like we spoke about the genetic mutations. We get tricked into mutations. And how do we get tricked into mutations? Making blends that we were never supposed to make. We're looking at Anpu. We're looking at Apep, the serpent. And we're looking at these heads or Haru. And we're looking at the head of an animal on a human body. Which if you was really paying attention, because I know we can't say nothing against Kemet, isn't that wrong? Shouldn't it be the other way around? Like the Nebhu or the Sphinx, the Nebharu, the master of light. But anyway, we're looking at that long enough, and then we're starting to say, that's real. Yeah, that's real. There was a dog. There was a man with a dog's head, with a canine's head. That's real. It's not a representation of something. So you know what? Let me recreate what the creator already created. Because I'm looking at this must be real. So I can do genetic splicing. Let me do it. Always remember, when you're reading ancient scripture, Hebraic scripture, and you read Mishraim, it's not Egypt. It's Mishraim. People will trick you into that. Oh, they're talking about ancient Egypt. They're talking about Mishraim, which means the house of bondage. Anytime the chosen people find themselves in the house of bondage, they're in a symbolic Egypt. Now, what's usually happening around that time? We're being beguiled, and we're being enchanted away from our journey and our path to divinity, and we're being enchanted because we can get information about magic tricks. That's what's happening. You think about most people who get into Orisha studies or Kemetic studies, what is it for? To do magic tricks. Wealth rituals, sex rituals, somebody pissed me off, I want to put a hex on. It's always magic tricks. Is it ever really to really determine and gain a deeper level of character? No. Don't talk to me about Ma'at, because you're not living by the laws of Ma'at, nor do you even understand the laws of Ma'at, because the laws of Ma'at ain't laws. They're confessions. And they're confessions of the soul. So what does that mean? If that's a confession of the soul, I can still do whatever I want with my body. As long as I don't maintain the weight of guilt to the point that I identify with the body. So that way, when the judgment scene comes, I can say, yeah, my body did all of that, but my soul is good. Let's go. So that means I could still be a con man while reciting these confessions. It's a trick. That's why when you look into most of the conscious community, like I said, no one talks about their actual religion. We look at religion like it's a dirty word. It's not. Some people need religion. Religion means to rewrite or relegare, to bind back. Bind back to what? The source. Well, isn't that what the Back to Africa movement was? Isn't that what we were here doing the whole time anyway? Trying to get back to our source, get back to when we were better people, when we were more righteous people. Well, that's called a religion. Relegare, to rewrite, to bind to the source. Now, what are we rewriting? Well, in the beginning, he made heaven and earth, right? Well, but when you look at the word earth, though, it translates into potsherd. And potsherd, back in the days, and this is what we was talking about the other day, I was teaching the sisters this. The way they used to write messages, they used to have these runners, right? So they would take pottery and they would break it, and they would have these broken shards of pottery, and they would write messages on them, and they had these runners who would run them from spot to spot. Like this is how messages were sent back and forth, right? Now, when you read in the Hebraic, when it says in the beginning he created heaven and earth, the word for earth is broken pottery, right? So broken pottery that's written on, that's the earth. So you think about that for a second, and then when we look at the word religion, which is to bind back or relegare, it's same word. It's two meanings: to bind back or to rewrite. Well, what am I rewriting? Well, what is the broken pottery? First of all, the broken pottery is shards off of a larger piece. So I'm the Most High. I'm the potter, or as we called, Anpu was a potter. So was Ptah. Ptah was also a potter, where you get the word potter or pater or father, right? Or Peter. So we have this stone or we have this rock, and what we do is we write an inscription. Remember the just like and you read the tales of Gilgamesh, he those priests used to wear stone tablets around their neck. Like how in Ifa we wear our epaulet around our epaulet, so people can see, oh, there's a Babalawo in town. That's why we always wear them like this. Well, they used to wear stone tablets with the commandments and the promises of the Most High around their neck, but this was done as also protection from demonic energies, right? So that's something that was written in stone. So now, if in the beginning he created heaven and earth is broken pottery, and religion is to rewrite, and that broken pottery has messages that are written on them to be sent from here to here, but now the religion allows us to rewrite the story or rewrite the message. That's a good thing. That means the Most High has broken the pottery in order to evolve itself. I'm going to break this vase. I'm going to throw it I'm going to create earth with this vase that has all these messages on it. But we're going to put the message, we're going to rewrite the message, and now when we put it back together, it's going to be better than what it was before. The earth represents the body, whereas the mind represents heaven or consciousness. This is why when it talks about, yeah, I can say that. That's why when it talks about when heaven and earth pass away, my word will still stand. Well, why is my word still standing? What has been rewritten? Well, in my Father's house there are many mansions. I go to prepare a place for you. What is the preparation of the place? Well, you are the temple of the Most High. But what is the actual temple? Is it your body or is it your consciousness? Let us make man in our image, male and female, that he created them. Then the body was made. So the Most High contained, or the Most High housed and dwelled itself in the abode of your developing consciousness from the beginning. So when the religion allowed the rewriting of the scroll or the rewriting of the pottery, that was the Most High writing and carving out a place for it to dwell within you. I don't know how this addresses the question. I'm sorry. I don't even know. I'm flowing. I'm sorry. That's what happens sometimes. I'll be talking to my children. They ask me one question, so I be feeling bad for them. They be wanting to go somewhere, and I start, and then it'd be like an hour and a half go by, and they're so mannerable. And then I'll just be, yo, Gillen again. Get off the island. I'll be all over the place. Oh, Baba, you need a lecture. Baba, oh, but we got to schedule a lecture for Baba. Yeah, he got a lot he want to talk about. All right, anyway, let me get to this. Going in like JD freestyle. Jeremy Denny says we're meant to keep the line pure, like begets like. Right, exactly. Like begets like. True adultery is the blending of unlike kinds, created mutated variants. Yeah, one of the rules of science is always so important too, is that the 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 genetic or biological accidents of one species will not create another species. That's important, because when you start to understand what we are in terms of the mythology, and mythology is important because a lot of times people look at mythology like it's just fairy tales. That's not what mythology actually is. Mythology is history that can't be placed on a timeline. That's mythology. So it's a story that's just as valid as any other scientific tale, but you're unable to place it on a specific timeline. That's what mythology is. It's not the same as a fairy tale, right? So when you're reading a creation story, in the beginning, the Elohim created the heaven and earth. What beginning? Mm. I don't know. There's many beginnings. One of the beginnings, right? Well, who wrote that? Who wrote it? Moses. How did Moses write it? Because if you tell me Moses wrote the first 5 books of the Bible, in one of those books it talks about the death of Moses. How the heck he wrote about his own death? How you pull that trick off? Okay, so we talking about one of the beginnings, right? There was multiple beginnings, because who was Cain so afraid of? Somebody who had a different beginning. But this particular beginning, like you said, Jeremy, was about purity. Those Elohim, those deities said, you know what? It's like Prometheus. It's like, all right, we could do a couple things here. Let's figure this out. We could release the Kraken. And we could start over. We could release Predator. We could drop the Predator on the planet, or we could create this garden space, and we can try everything. We can clean it up. No more experimenting. This time, let's just follow the rule book. Okay, let's follow the rule book. So when he speaks to Adom, he says, "Here, I'm going to give you the seeds. I'm not giving you the plants." He didn't read it. He didn't give him plants. He gave him seeds. I'm going to give you the seeds, and I'm going to give you the seeds for every tree that bears fruit, and that gives you a seed that will bear a tree of its own kind. When he kept saying of its own kind, of its own kind, of its own kind, he's saying we're going to keep the line. We're going to keep the line, man. This time we're going to keep the line. And then the serpent said, hey, let me in that line. Let me get in there. Come here, Eve. Let me impregnate your mind with something. Let me drop something on you. He dropped something on Eve, and then here comes Cain. Cain, I'm killing everything. I'm what? What's the problem? Because Cain's mind was divided. His mind was so divided he couldn't even get back to the downbeat. He couldn't even get back to it. When the Most High said, "Man, get out of here with them fruits and vegetables, man. I told you I'm not eating that. Get out of here." He could have said, "Yeah, you're right, man. I was tripping. Let me go and do it the way you said to do it." He didn't even know how. He said, "You know what? I know the answer. I'll murder." That's the answer. You see, because the blood was impure. The line was destroyed. You see, so there wasn't any redemption until Seth and them came along. But nah, Adom, the earth. Adom means red, or Adoma, red. The red earth was looking at Cain like that ain't my son. I don't know. Looking at Eve like, what the heck done came up out of you? I don't think like that. Yeah, because the bloodline. It's always been about the bloodline. You know, today it's about the bloodline. Today, you thinking it's something else that is not. Because if you understood that it's always been about the bloodline, you'll start to look at certain things that you are praising and you realize that this is an abomination not to be praised. You see, you'll read certain stories and you'll read the story like, damn man, you know, we're so proud of David for killing Goliath, but poor Goliath, poor Goliath. Goliath was half angel, half human. You know, he didn't have a chance because they over there playing around with the bloodlines, man. He didn't even have a chance. Poor Goliath. So of course, and what did he do? He taunted Israel. He comes out, he's laughing. The Philistines is laughing at him. Ah, y'all bunch of suckers. Whoop de whoop de whoop. Then when David comes, like, oh, and he brought out a little boy. What are you gonna do? Break dance? What you about to do? You know? Then they laughing at the little boy. You see? Poor Goliath. But isn't that what's happening today? Isn't Israel still being called out, still being laughed at, still being ridiculed because you want to keep things pure, you want to keep things right? Aren't you told because you don't want to blend things up? You know, like I've taught you before, man. Why do you think Adoma was given Hava? Hava y'all call Eve. Why do you think he was giving her? So he wouldn't go do something stupid and start humping on a garlic plant or something. That's why. I'm going to give you flesh that comes from you so you'll understand what the blend is supposed to be, right? So you'll understand that you won't be over there jumping on a tree or, you know, finding a soft patch of moss and, ooh, this feels good. You see? So let me give you something like you so you'll have a fitting match or a fitting mate. We laugh at stuff like that now. That's why when you know when you talk about, I'm gonna go back to when you talk about marriage. It's not that complicated. Y'all overcomplicate it. To be honest with you, you know, you find somebody who's like you, and you do what you need to do. It's not that difficult. You know what I mean? Yeah, and peace to everyone who's in here, man. You know, man and woman. Excuse me. I don't mean man like that. But peace to all of y'all are here, man. Um, you know, it's a good amount of people in here. Uh, but yeah, the adultery, that's always been our problem from rip. We're adulterous. We're an adulterous people. You know, we don't like to just do what we're told, and we love blending and mixing stuff up, and we think it's fly. You know, there's a way to mix stuff up, but you got to have perspective. And then once you have perspective, you'll know when you don't need to mix stuff up. People say that to me all the time. They're like, "Yo, you say you're more a Hebrew, but I know you're a Bible out." Yeah, I am. I'm also Microsoft certified as well. I can come and put your whole network together. I can also do that. You know, um, I also went to school for industrial and organizational psychology. Right, so also have that too. You know, I can actually I can totally re-engineer your whole HR department, and I can give you better human factors and metrics for hiring. I can show you how to use software packages like R and Python to run statistics on on the people who work for you. You know, I can help you to create software packages and graphs and different input formats in order for people to actually input different things, and you can to run surveys and just and stuff like that for your employees. I can do that too, right? So because I can do that, do I not know where that falls in line with my divine purpose? I can make rain. I can invoke demons. I can invoke jinn. I can work with Lawal. I can or have them work for me. I can have Natir work for me. I can make dogs stop barking. I can make dogs start barking. I can make the waves roar. I can make the waves calm down. I can do a whole lot of interesting things that will surprise you. But why can I do all those things? Because every hour I'm getting closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to the Elohim. So I'm becoming more like them. So I'm not doing all of these different things because I want to do tricks on earth. I'm doing all these things because I'm stepping on the heads of all of these different functions in order to be where I'm supposed to be. So while I am a Microsoft certified, but at the same time, IO psychology, and why do I have all these different credentials, underneath me? I also work on cars and I can ride motorcycles and I used to race motorcycles. I got a lot of stuff I could do, but all those different things I do make way for my purpose. They all make way for my purpose. I'm not stuck in the matrix of those realities thinking that those are my purpose. So if I need to interact with the water element, if I need to interact with the water element, I can make it rain. I can do that. If I need to go into the mountains and I need to be transfigured, I can astral project there if need be, or I can go into the mountains and I can be safe because I understand the mysteries of stone. I understand the Abata stone. You see, um, I can go to the crossroads all day and I can interact with the arc energies of justice because I understand the mysteries of Eshu and Elegbara, right? I understand those things. However, I have as much regard for Igba Oduiwa. I have just as much regard as Igba Oduiwa as I have for a grapevine, right? Um, what is Igba Oduiwa? Igba Oduiwa is the calabash, the character of the calabash. You probably never even heard of that Orisha because people are so religiousized in the wrong thing. They just talk about the seven Orisha. There's a reason that there's 401, and there's a mystery to that, and it's entwined in the beginning. The Elohim created the heavens and the earth. When you learn how to do the proper numerology on that phrase, you'll come up with an interesting number, which is 401. And we're told that there's 200 Orisha on the left side of Olodumare and 200 Orisha on the right side, and then one extra, which they often say is Eshu. 401. so so maybe one day I'll show you how to do the numerology in that. But you learn these different things so that you can get to where you're supposed to get because they're tools. You're not supposed to go through your life worshiping an anvil or worshiping a hammer or a machete. That's stupid. It's stupid. Honestly, it's not stupid. I'm sorry. It's dumb. It's not stupid. It's dumb because if you don't know, you don't know, right? If you're dumb to it. But these are tools that you use to climb your way up. But like I said, when you're dealing with calm people and whatnot, they'll never cite any type of structure to you because and then once they do, they switch it up. They switch their names all the time. Their screen names are constantly switching up all the time. You know, you'll never know where the heck they're coming from. You'll never know. You see, there's nothing to hold them to. You got my name, Yuya. Well, my other name, Yusef. Yusef, Yuya. They're both family names. Go to my LinkedIn. You'll see it. It says it right there. Yusef. What does Yusef mean? Yusef. It means Yuya. It's the same name. It's the same name. And when I talk to my neighbor, he's Mexican. He knows me as Jose. When I first introduced myself to him, I introduced myself as Jose. Because I didn't feel like going through, he ain't going to pronounce my name right. He don't even speak English. I was like, he ain't going to pronounce my name right. Jose. Oh, Jose. Yes, Jose. You know that word, right? Okay, cool. Because why? What does Jose mean? It means Joseph. What does Joseph mean? Yuya. They're all the same. Joseph, Yuya is all the same name. You can find me. I ain't hard to find. You know? So you already know my standard. You already know my standard. Yusuf. Well, what is Yusuf? That's Islamic. So can we hold him to Islamic state? Yeah, you sure can. You sure can. And Yuya is not the name of a deity. You know, it's not fly. Now, yeah, I have the title for Ru. I earned that title, but that's not what's on when I sign my name on stuff. It's Yuya. You know. But the point I'm saying is that that standard is so important, and people dodge around that standard so much, man. And so religion is not an ugly word. It's just, what are you binding yourself to? If you're binding yourself to the source, you're good. You're good. If you're binding yourself to the source, religion, resource, recreation. When you got that re in it, repent. You got something good. You got something good. Um, It's just that a lot of times it's not that. A lot of times our repentance, we say, oh, I did this, is not really repenting. We're we're adversing. Adversing just means to turn. So if I face adversity, I face a turn. Repentance means to go back and think. Pent is think, re is to go back. So what is up when I'm going back into think, what am I doing? I'm renewing my mind. I'm taking my mind and I'm taking it back to the beginning when it was pure. And let's try again with the better mind. That's what repentance is, right? Um, so, yeah. Anyway, let me go. I know I'm all over. I know I'm all. It's been a while since I did a live. I'm rusty. Um, so yeah, I think I got everything here. I think we're good. Yeah, projection of Cassie. You said I'm ready. What you ready for, Cassie? Only. What you ready for, Cassie? Um, Multiple falls. Follow the manual. Yeah, Thanos. Hey, I'm with Thanos. I really don't see the problem. I really don't see the problem. You know, I do see the problem because I mean, on some levels, that's what happened to us. You know, we have a pre-existence in heaven. We have a remember, we are the dwelling place of the Most High. You know, so not to say that the Most High dwells in heaven. You know, but when there was that, or when there is that battle in the sky with the dragon, and the one third are they go down with him. You know, one of the things that sometimes we forget about, that like we all have a precognition. That was us. That was us. That's our story. So what does that mean? That means that we were separated from our family, right? So if you went down with the dragon, you know, and your uncle or your sister or your cousin is still there, we talking about the waters that separated. You know, whether you're reading again in Genesis about the waters, the separation between the firmament of heaven and the waters that stayed on earth, or whether you're reading before the ancient old tales of Gilgamesh, you know, you still have the separations of the waters. Some water was good, some water was bad, quote unquote, right? So with a concept like that, you know, that's the first, because you remember it talks about how the water cried out to heaven. There was pain. Why did it cry out? Yo, my mother's up there. My father's there. You left me down here. And the water down here became grimy. It became fluid. It became blood. It became sperm. It became urine. It became all the things that we need for human functioning, while that water up there remained pure. You see? But either way, I'm separated from my family. You know? So that's sometimes we read these stories and we don't know how to place ourselves or place our journey, because because we were tricked. You know, so even when you read about the story of Lucifer, um or Bela, which is actually his name, they don't tell you that though. They tell you all these titles, but we got the title. What was his actual name? Because Lucifer is a title, Satan is a title, the serpent is a title, the dragon is a title. That's not a name. Remember, when you can name something, you can control it. That's why a name is such a sacred and divine thing to have. A name, a name creates description. When it speaks about Adom naming all the animals of the field, it doesn't mean he was like, "You're an ant, you're a cricket, you're a locust, you're a grasshopper." He wasn't doing that. When you look at the word, it says that he described them. Now, so describing them, he created their definition. You see, so when he saw the grasshopper, he described what the grasshopper does, and because he had the heaven or the tachyon energy coming from his mouth, he programmed each animal through description. You see, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. That was their program. So once you know the name of something, you can define its contours, you can define its borders. Once you can do it, you've controlled it. I know that's rough because some of the people were like, yeah, but you say that you're a Moorish Hebrew and you call upon the name of Yah. Hmm. But is that really its name? If I know it, it's kind of like the Illuminati. You think they're like, oh, coming, hear ye, first order of the Illuminati. No, you know, if you think that's the name, then that means that's something you can control. Then that means it ain't what you think it is. If I can name my God, and my God is what influences me and makes me, then that whatever I'm naming is not actually my God, it's something else. It could be my perception of my God, but it ain't my actual God. Because my actual God, I can't name because I can't define and describe. However, and when I am functioning from the I, the inner I of my God, I can describe me. And you have to know the difference between the I and the me. I and me are two different things. The I is the inner I. The I is now I'm functioning as the God. The me is I'm functioning as the object. Me is the object. You see, and I is the actualized. You know? So yeah, man. Anyway. Uh Keep it pure, keep it simple slash primal, keep it in perspective. Everything feeds into your purpose. That seems like a good basis for a marital contract. Yeah, that's a perfect basis for a marital contract, man. Keep it pure, keep it simple, primal, right? Because us getting together is not that complicated. I've been saying that for years. Hey, I'll give you something, man. A lot of you brothers who I've had this question, like, how do you get the women to agree to that? How, they don't be arguing. They don't. I'm a man. When you live like a man, you ain't gotta do all of that explaining. I'm a man. They know I'm a man, right? So, and how do I describe what a man is? You can't, because the moment you can describe it, you've put it inside of a boundary. We are ever expanding as men. We are ever expanding as women. That's the whole reason why we're here, to to further the definition, right? But I know I'm on that path. And as long as you're living and you're moving on that path with authenticity, you ain't got to do a whole bunch of explaining. You only have to do that when you're not that sure about how you're living, because then she picks up on your unsurety. It's like I've told you before, when you pull up in a bucket and you're ashamed of your car, she's going to be ashamed of your car. You see, when you pull up in a bucket and you're like, I love this car, and you really love the car. I told you before I had a car like that. That Toyota Corolla. I had a Toyota Corolla. It was orange. I loved it. I wish I had that car to this day. I never should have got rid of that car. I forget what year it was. I'd have to look at a picture and I could tell you the year. It was a hatchback though. I love that car. It was orange, and I had dune buggy wheels on it. I had two. Except one of them wasn't. I had three dune buggy wheels on it, and then I think it was the right front was a regular tire, and I had sheepskin seats in that car. Every time you got in the car, you had like sheepskin lint all on you that you had to brush off, so you couldn't wear black if you got in my car. Um, Man, I love that car, and it had no reverse. But the thing about it, the car was so small. Like whenever I had to back up, I would literally just put my foot out the car, and I would just, kick it back, Flintstone style. And couldn't nobody tell me nothing about that car. I love that car. Um, I bought that car for $300. My man Mark, I remember we were walking down the street and I saw it, and my car had gotten stolen, and I was like, man, I need a whip. And we were walking by, and it was they're not even there anymore. It used to be a tire spot. It was up in the Bronx. I don't know what it is now because it was a Blockbuster. After that, we're going that far back. Obviously, not a Blockbuster anymore, but it used to be a tire spot. Then it became a Blockbuster, and now it's something. I don't know what it is anymore. But it was sitting out there, and it had a cardboard sign in the window. It's at $300. I was like, yo. I was like, yo, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get that car. And he was like, what? He was like, yo, you bugging. I was like, yo, I'm buying that car. And I was like, yo, I ain't got no money on me. I was like, yo, give me $300. And he gave me, and I bought the car right there on the spot. And I drove that car forever. I ended up buying something else while I had it. It was such a good deal. I just bought it, and I was like, I don't really need both of these joints, you know. And I junked it, but I love that car. And when I no, I sold it. Matter of fact, and I remember the guy came with a tow truck, and I didn't tell him I was being grimy. I didn't tell him it didn't have a reverse, but I had to like back it up and then pull it forward to get it in front of the truck. And I was like, damn, if I can't back up. So I was like, yo, I was like, I'm gonna take it around the block one last time, man, just to say goodbye. And I drove it all the way around the block so I could line it up with the tow truck. And I was like, yeah, he'll figure it out when he tries to back it up off the truck, you know. But man, I used to have all kind of women in that car, and they'd be like, "We getting in that? Yeah, we getting in this. Get in the car." I had the hatchback. I would open up, and I had a kicker box in it. I had two 15s in the back of that car, and I would open up the hatchback in the back, and I had the Benzie box where you could pull the whole radio out. You know what I mean? I love that car, man. And that was when Benzies first came on. Nobody had a Benzie box, right? So transference of emotion. It's a transference of emotion. You know, when you're living like a man and you're living true and you're and what you're doing is true to who and what you are, um, it's not difficult at all. You know what I'm saying? And trust me, man, that car I was going on regular like outings with, like, oh, we're gonna go to a restaurant, all right? And I throw my joints to the valet, be like, yo, don't back it up. I would tell you can't back that joint up, man. You know what I mean? What do you mean, sir? You can't back it up, man. So you're gonna have to pull into a spot. You know what I'm saying? Where I can pull forward right out of the spot. Don't put it anywhere where you got it because you can't back it up. You know, no shame. You know, so that's what the same thing, man. It's very simple when it comes to relationships and marriage, man. People overcomplicate things because they're trying to do the Disney wedding. I want a sister like this. I want a brother like that. And then again, a lot of times it's not a sober assessment. Where are you at right now? You know what I mean? Like some at some point, sometimes your time passes for certain things, and you're just using the wrong the wrong criteria. If you ever read this work by Arthur Schopenhauer, very interesting German philosopher, but I've read like all his work, and he talks about a lot of interesting things. But one of the things he talks about is, or used to talk about, is very old work, about what really attracts us to people. And one of the things that he talks about is how men will typically choose a woman who has a body shape that he's attracted to over to mate with over a woman who he finds beautiful in the face. And that's, there's a primal thing about that, and there's a truism to that. But when you look at Schopenhauer, yeah, yeah, brother Lowe. But when you look at like what Hollywood teaches you and things like that, or sometimes what you're guilted into, it's not necessarily that, because that's not based on reproduction per se. You know what what takes you there. What takes you there. I remember having conversations with brothers and like certain sisters. I'd be like, yo, like sister I had a crush on for a long time, man. If you ever look at the movie Sankofa, um, there's a sister. I'm trying to remember her name in the movie. It wasn't Nunu. Nunu was no, it was Nunu. Um, the one who was Joe's mother, she was a con. Um, I remember when I first saw the movie, and I was like, "Yo, I want one of those." you know, but for all intents and purposes, a lot of brothers maybe look at her and like not pay a lot of attention to her, whatever. But I was like, man, that sister looked straight out of the bush, man. She was like chubby and didn't have no hair, and I'm like, damn, she's beautiful. And I remember watching it with a sister who I was dealing with at the time, and I'm over there looking at her, and she's looking at Muta Baruka, and I'm like, "You like him?" And she's like, "He's sexy," you know, and it's like, yeah, maybe not classically or socially what people would look at. I was with a sister years ago, man. She had this huge crush on Shabba Ranks. And I remember, at the time people would make fun of him and they had the song and Lemon Color, Mr. Ugly Man and all that. But she was like, oh, he's so fine to me. He is so fine, right? We get beyond what social engineers tell us are supposed to drive us for. And at some point we look at what is your genetics crying out for? What is your DNA saying this is you? That's your people right there. That's what you mate. That's your texture that you blend well with. Go that direction. And a lot of times, unfortunately, we ignore that because we're always looking to blend beyond what we're supposed to. You know. All right. So I'm just gonna look at the last couple things, and I'm gonna let you go. I think we covered some of what pretty thin white women with the flat booty. Hey man, but you know what? If that's what you like, like that's that's there's some pretty thin, damn near white sisters with flat booty. I mean, every sister ain't got a butt anyway. You know, I have a knack for attracting rooster women. Rooster women, I don't know, man. They be pecking around. They find me. You know what I mean? So I mean, I've experienced a lot of sisters who didn't have you know, all that back. I get a lot of roosters. They all chest, no butt. you know, um, so you get, I attract a lot of women too who look Asian. At one point I was peeping that out. I'm like, why I got all these? I was literally we were having a little get together at the house. So I had the sisters come through, and I think I was sitting there with one of my children, and we were joking about something, and I'm looking at this, they laughing and joking, right? And, I said, my uncle was there, and I said it to my uncle, and I said, yo, unc, man, I said, all my women got low butt. He was like, what? I was like, yeah, they all got low butts. I was like, look at them, man. They all got these dragon butts. Not that they're necessarily like out of shape or whatever, but they got that low butt thing. You know, I was like, if you really look at, and they all look like they're walking on steps, even though they walking straight, like they're walking up steps. Now, I'm trying not to be offensive to certain ethnic groups. You know what I'm saying? But I'm looking, I'm like, I attract a lot of women who look like that, like they're, like this, Cambodia, Cam, come on, you know what I'm saying, black. So I'm like, yeah, man, I got a lot of these like Cambodian style sisters. So they're attractive. They all look good, but they all, if you really look at them, they all got low butt. You know what I mean? Flat chest, low butt, and the eyes were kind of like that. And at one point, and I'm like, I'm looking around, at the sisters, and I mean, probably as far as the amount that was there, I probably had like 80 toes deep at that point. I'm looking, so it's 8 sisters, so it's like 8, and they all same thing, like all 8 of them. I'm looking like, yeah, they all got the low butt. So that's telling me something about me. There's some Shang dynasty in your blood in there, because that's who you are. Bringing to you it's cool. So that's a part of what we got to look at too, man. Every brother doesn't have a thing hanging down to their knees. Like that's, there's so many stereotypes, and every sister probably doesn't want that. So we have to kind of look at some of those things again. Look at what, and you have to distinguish your primal urges from your desires. Like I said earlier, that's an important thing. But you got to know the difference, man. But yeah, it's not as complicated. And if you are plugged into the signs of the time, or like where we're at right now, you would make it even less complicated. You look at a movie. I always like the movie Rosewood, Ving Rhames, for several reasons. But this is just like energy when he comes to town. He's looking around. He's like, "Yeah, I like it here, Mike. I might settle down here, right?" And he gets with the sister. He just finds a sister. What was her name? Pappy or Poppy, Snappy, something like that. Scrappy. Um, he found a sister he liked. He's like, "Yeah, that's gonna be my wife, and I'm gonna buy this property here." And boom, that's it. Because we overcomplicate things a lot of times because again we're so wound up in the matrix. You know, sometimes when brothers go overseas and they talk about, oh, the sisters are like this and the sisters are like that, they're so much better. It's because they don't have all of that, all of the options thrust in their face like women do here, necessarily, or like you do. You go overseas, like the average sister I know in certain regions literally knows 10 men in total. Brothers, uncle knows 10, you know. Um, but then if you're in the States and you have access to social media and she's got 10 every couple hours clicking like on a picture or jumping in her DMs, or she's walking down the street, all these men are coming at her, then it becomes a lot more difficult to meet a sister and say, hey, how tall are you? I'm this tall. Let's get married. Let's go have a family. Make me your baby daddy. It becomes a lot more difficult. Or right, the swipe right culture. Where you got all the dating app. I don't like. You know, and then sometimes people get nitpicky. I don't like his nose. I don't like this. His gums. I don't like the color of his gums, and things like that. But it's because of we're so bombarded with all of these false representations of actual people. Whereas you go into slower spaces, whether it be the Caribbean or different places like that, where you may not have a bunch of people in your face like that. You become a bit more content with whoever's with you, or whoever comes to marry you. That type of concept like that, man. So a lot of that overcomplicates things, and then it's the artificial attention that a lot of people get from these platforms. There was a sister laughing once because the time I was on here with my brother, and somebody had said something, and I was like, "Oh man, ignore that. That's internet talk." And she thought that was so funny, and I was like, "Yeah, that ain't real. Don't pay attention to that. That's not real attention. Like it's artificial. It's not real light. It's artificial light. But some people don't know the difference, or they don't even care. They you ain't got to give me no real herb to smoke. You can give me that K2. I don't care. Give me the K2. You know what I mean? So some people are stuck in that kind of mentality as well. So it becomes more difficult when it comes to mating because you might approach a sister, but she's done had 15, 20 people holler at her today or tell her how beautiful is she is and this and that and that and that, and you're not coming with enough energy, or she feels you're boring or this or that because you saying, hey, how you doing? How was your day today? Or I don't know, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite color or whatever? Oh my God, he's boring. Let me go back on IG, where it's exciting, where the real thing is at, not that white stuff. They kind of, that's, man, I know the reference from that's from a Nas song. Um, so yeah, it becomes a bit more difficult, brother Antonio, in that sense, and that's where culture comes in. You making sure that the women that you're interacting with, meanwhile, half the people hollering at them are married, or in relationships. Yeah, but does it matter if I just want attention? You know, you consider the time period that we live in. Men are such a rarity. Men, not males. The males all over the place, but men, right? So women need Man, right, black girl lost, you know it. Not that white stuff. Girl, he in here talking that back to Africa. That God body. I mean, I don't want to do the whole skit. But so sisters are out here starving. So when people say, oh, she's thirsty, she should be. When's the last time she had some real nurturing? When's the last time she had a drink of real consciousness? She's out here drinking Fantas and strawberry yoo-hoos. You know, that's what these guys are coming with. You know what I mean? So yeah, she's thirsty. Thirst tells you that your body needs something. When you get to the point where you're not thirsty anymore, that means your organs are shutting down. Thirst is saying, go, you need something, right? There's no men out here. So even when she's talking to a dude, he ain't talking about nothing. You know, he's not consistent. Maybe they text a little bit. He'll disappear for 2 days and then come back with a WYD, you know, all that stuff like that. So he doesn't really have any kind of mission. He doesn't have any kind of real plan, you know. So you got to understand that feminine energy, even though it's a chaotic energy, it wants to be ordered. It wants ordering, you know, and it wants agitation. It wants the wind to come and make the water do that. It wants to be hit with sunlight so it can be purified of the parasites that may be in its stagnation. It wants that because it needs that in order to be functional. So when the sister comes along and she says, "How can I serve?" She might be like, "Hey man, I've been by myself for 3 years, or I've been dating bozos for the past 5 years. I'm stagnant. I haven't had any light that has purified me or helped me to cast out these demons in me, and I haven't had any real gust of ruach. That's the wind. I haven't had any real spirit, any real heaven infused into my waters to make me charge forward. You see, I haven't had any of that. So yeah, you coming along. I'm on every word, brother. I'm hanging on every word. What do you want me to do? Because if I'm doing and I'm moving within your function and within your energy, I'm also purifying and refining as a result of being on your wave. You see? So when that's not happening and she's looking to the left, she's looking to the right, she's looking all over. Pops ain't giving it to her, uncle ain't giving it to her brother ain't giving it to her baby father ain't giving it. Every dude she's meeting on every dating app, ain't nobody giving it to her. So at least she could say, well, you know what, I could take a picture here and show a little bit of this or whatever, and I can get some likes, and at least that'll keep me, it's like a vampire in the swamp eating frogs and rats to stay alive. At least I can get something that reminds me of what I am, because I need the attention of light in order to propel myself forward. So let me get something. Let me get something. And even if it's negative, hell, if I can't get it that way, I'll become an internet troll. But I got to get something, or maybe I'll interact with a masculine female. That's a common one in the culture community. That masculine female never has a mate. She's running her sister circle or her sacred. She's running her women's things and stuff like that. Never has a mate of her own. Ain't had a mate in 10, 15, 20 years. Around guys, but never. You ain't seeing nobody. You ain't seeing nobody dominator. You ain't seeing that, you know. But so at least that female will be able to say, well, I listen. I'll be following directions. Cause sister so and so told me, or mama told me so, or Ia so and so told me to do this. Fake light. You can't get nowhere with that. That's the swirling and the turning of tumultuous waters. When you read about the face of the Most High was on the waters and it was void, it means that it was formless. It was just spinning. That word translate face translates into turn. So it's saying that the waters were just turning. It wasn't going anywhere, right? That's busy work. We're not spiraling, we're not progressing, we're just turning around in a circle. What is a circle? Girl, let's go to the beach and put all white on, and let's leave some flowers by the waterside and cry. Ooh, girl, let's do that. Girl, let's go give each other tarot readings. Girl, let's do that. Girl, let's go make some more waist beads. Girl, let's make some more waist beads. Yeah, girl, let's do that. turning. Girl, let's go get a reading by Chief Yuya. But whenever he says something that forces us to change and demands change, let's ignore him. Girl, let's do that. Got me going in circles. Round and round and round I go. Because nothing is, what do I need to move? I need hot air. Hot air will do what? It will agitate me. Because my water is my emotions that I just keep experiencing over and over again. I keep going through these cycles of depression. I go to the water with the girls, or we do a pamper day, and I feel great. Then I get depressed again. But what happens when some hot air is put underneath me? Now, where does the heat come from? From the light, from the sun, from the man. And where's the wind come from? The wind is the spirit, is the ruach. That's the man. You put that hot air under me, and what happens? Well, I start to turn into gas, right? And what happens when I turn into gas? I start to disperse. But before that, I'm boiling over. I'm uncomfortable with the way you're making me feel. I'm uncomfortable with that. You got me boiling. Everything was cool before you showed up. I was at peace before you showed up. I was happy before you showed up. And now I question myself all the time. Now I'm crying all the time. Girl, you boiling over. Just sit your ass down and keep boiling. We going. I'm taking you places, girl. I'm turning you into gas. You see? And once you become a gas, you become gases. Jesus. Gases. Jesus. Gases. Jesus. Now we talk about saving people. But in order to do that, you were a child of the water and you were swirling around the face of the water. The face of the Elohim was over the water. The water was what? Void and formless, without shape. It also means desolate. That's what that also means. Desolate, formless. Well, in order to have form, it had to have definition, right? But form, it was just going wherever it wanted to go. So now the Most High said, what? Let there be light. What is light? Light translates into the word box. So now I'm using light to box or to contain that which once had no form. Is that comfortable? Probably not. It probably isn't. It probably isn't, because light's hot. Light's hot. That's why a lot of times you find people who have fire signs in their moon that they're not comfortable with their emotions. You know, when they feel awkward. There's a sister I know like that. Every time I'm saying something to her, like if I say something that she really likes, you know, like something really clever, she'll hit me. You know, she does it every time. Like she'll punch me in my arm or something like that. Like even when she laughs, she'll laugh and be like, she'll suck her teeth and like punch me because I said something really funny, right? There's a part of her that's a little bit uncomfortable with her emotions, with feeling free at that level, you know. But that's what that is. So you boiling over, it's alchemy that's happening. You know, the blood pressure is raising, you know, and you're boiling over, you become gases. Gases represent children. Children are the understanding. Why do gases represent children or the Messiah? Because they go places that we could not have reached, that we could not have gone, and they disperse all over the place. Can't find it now, can't see it, can't contain it now. You see? And then what happens? It starts all over again, becomes a cloud, comes back down, let's do it again. You see? So yeah, man, the sisters are fiending for that experience, but sometimes they don't understand what it's gonna look like. Yeah, you're gonna boil over. I'm gonna say some things to you. I'm gonna call you some names. I'm gonna do a whole lot of things that's gonna make your water rise. I'm gonna make it boil, you know, and you're gonna go places that you never thought that you could go. But that attention that you're getting, which is causing you not to be able to mate, will never cause you to the change and the transformation. What is trans means to go across or to change what form. It will not cause you to transform, to change your form. What is your current form? Stagnant water. Well, we want the stagnant water to now be usable. What do? We boil it, right? We boil it. So, but that fake attention will not cause any boiling. In fact, sometimes it causes a deeper crustation of stagnation, because sometimes when you're operating with weak light and weak energy, all it does is reinforce the narrative that you currently have that's keeping you stagnant. Oh, these guys ain't this. I can't trust these guys. These guys are no good with money. These women are just, they all got attitude problems. These women are just promiscuous. These women are just this, that, and the third. Like I said, what happens when you get the righteous woman? Will you know what to do with her? Right? Or will you say, well, damn, I know I ain't righteous. What's she doing here? Must be something wrong with her. Will you not understand grace? Uh, the friend of the killer kung fu wolf, bitch. Yeah, girl, that was me. Yeah, that one. Right. Um, that was Tashina Arnold too, I think, who voiced that on that episode. While Iya and Mama so and so have no mate or master to pour into them, they never do, because you know what? They're 10%ers. They're deceivers put into the community. They never have a mate. And in fact, you become a surrogate mate. That's why half the time when you join those houses that are led by women like that, don't go to them about a reading. You met a brother who you want to get with, and this and don't go to them with that, because the first thing they're going to figure out how to do is to get you away from it. I did a reading on it, and it said that he's abusive. It said that he got children you don't know about. It said that he got a woman. Oh, the reason you got that ticket is because there's a woman who he's dealing with who put a hex on you. They play those games. You ain't. If I'm going to be single, you're going to be single. And then when they do get a man, they'll hide him because they're afraid that, there's a jealousy that's always there. Yeah, man, I could tell you some stories. I could tell you some stories. If you're in a spiritual house is supposed to be a reflection of a family. What's in the family? Mommy, daddy, children. Not just mommy, not just daddy. Don't trust those situations. Turn her into a cloud of light. Yeah, you turn her into a moon. That's what you're looking to do. You turn her When you turn her into gas by giving her that light and give her that agitation. What you're striving to do is to send her up into your orbit, where she can now function with certain principles that are innate within her construct. But you're the life giver. You got to always remember that, men. Like, if you're not giving life, don't be trying to mate anyway. I mean, right now you are sustained from the sun. Right now, the sun provides a process of photosynthesis for the plants. And if you're a vegan, you're eating those plants, and you're keeping yourself alive. Even if you're a carnivore, it's the animals that eat those plants, right? And you eat the animals. But either way, it's all being sustained or being nourished by the light of the sun. you know so if you're not able to be that, forget that whole, especially for those of you who are seeking for plurality in your relationships. Ignore the can you afford two wives. That's BS. Nobody asked you that when you want one wife. Can you afford one wife? I'm not buying nobody. I don't know what you think this is. I ain't buying nobody. So that ain't got nothing to do with it. A woman is supposed to bring wealth into my franchise. So, if I have to buy two wives, I mean, I got two pieces of dead weight. What the heck I want that for? You better off being by yourself. Like I said, don't read those reports. Married men tend to make more. No, married men have to make more. They don't have the freedom. The society locks you into ideas of what marriage looks like and stuff like that. Go back and watch They Live. If you want to be clear on that, go back and watch They Live. All right, so I think that's it for the questions and stuff, man. We were on for like 3 hours, but like I said, the sisters did a great job. They just had some tech difficulties with their audio, but they were able to cover some good things. And I just, like I said, for anybody who still had questions going forth, I wanted to just provide a space where, I'm just scanning through real quick. I just wanted to provide a space where I would answer those questions or whatever, because this is an important thing, man. Can't have a nation without family, and you got to stop doing stuff haphazard as far as putting families together. But Getting together, like I said, it ain't complicated, man. You just complicate it when you don't have a purpose. When if you meet a woman, she's like, I'm righteous, I'm living by the laws of the Most High. You like, damn, I'm righteous, I'm living by the laws of the Most High. What is it to argue about? Nothing. We're both living by the same code. We both already tied ourselves to the same purpose. You got to start looking at, I'm gonna get off with this. Start looking at, go back again. We talk about the Matrix a lot. You know what we never talk about when it comes to the Matrix? We never talk about the relationship of Neo and Trinity. That's the type of woman you want. You want a Trinity. Trinity. I spoke about recently in the chat. Like, yeah, it's this. I'm on some Jamie Lannister type stuff. Like, when Bryn, she got down on a knee and Jamie knighted her. I'm on it like that. I will knight you. I will bring you into this. But look at Trinity, right? That's another angle because Trinity loved Neo because of who he was to the cause, not just because he's Keanu Reeves and he's John Wick and what I mean, he was in Ted and what's the name's Excellent Adventure. It wasn't about that because I promise you, if he would have walked away from his purpose as the one, she wouldn't have messed with him. That's what you want, not someone. Yeah, it's nice to have a woman who's into you and so in love with you and all of that. But you know what? A lot of times, brothers, you focus on that too much because you're fixated on the 48 laws of power, and you're not really fixated on real mathematics, true and living mathematics. When you're fixated on true and living mathematics, you're going to be developing a woman to a point where she is able to fulfill her role as the planet and the moon that she is, right? And her attraction and her magnetism for you only comes into play because you are functioning as the sun that's keeping your planets in orbit, not because you're cologne, or because you swinging it from the hip a certain way where you laying it down and you got her mesmerized at that level. That's not what's keeping her locked in. What's keeping her locked in is that centrifugal force from you revolving or becoming that evolving force of the sun. That's what it's supposed to be. That was the relationship between Neo and Trinity, man. Go back, check it out. You don't believe me? She was down for his mission. That's why if you even look at it, man, you didn't see. Look at how they interacted in the series. It wasn't a whole lot of lovey-dovey and stuff like that. They were always about the work. I don't think you probably saw her smile once in the whole series. She didn't smile. Like, we here to do this work, and this brother is or this guy is doing the work, and that's what I'm down for, man. But if you're not doing the work, you wouldn't know what to do with a Trinity. You'd probably just taint her. You'd ruin her. And send her back out there ruined. And she'd be sitting there crying, I used to be a good woman. You'd probably do that to her. So you gotta have yourself together. I know it's very easy, especially nowadays. There is a resurgence of manhood, and it's long overdue. Like I've said before, women have been running amok. I'm not saying sisters because those ain't my sisters, but women have been running amok unchecked, and they still are. They still are. And then you have some guys finally speaking up, like, all right, enough is enough. Stop. Like, or we don't have to deal with you. We go our own way, or we'll go to another country. I get it, but it doesn't mean that you right just because you recognize some wrong. Because that same mentality that's got her insane is the same mentality that raised you and got you crazy. You both were raised by Big Mama. You know, no one taught you how to be a man. It's like no one taught her how to be a woman. You both screwed up. All right, so that's part of what gotta get right. All right, I'm gonna let you all go. It's been 3 hours. I know people do lives for 3, 5 hours and stuff like that. I don't know how they do it. I know some people do them every day. I don't know how. I can't. It's not for me. I can't even watch a live longer than 60 minutes. But anyway, but thank you for those of you who hung in there, or who are gonna listen later and stuff like that. And peace to all of y'all in the chat. There's a bunch of y'all here, so I won't catch everything. I don't know if that's Jeremiah, if that's the Jeremiah, but if that's you, brother, peace. Long time no hear from. If that's you, I think it is. I think. Yeah, but and there's a Jeremiah too, and Naya, and all of y'all, and Labora. You know, yeah, man. Peace to everybody, and willfully you'll have a safe and productive evening. There's a lot of people. I ain't gonna catch all of y'all. Cassie Derwin, you know. I've enjoyed the last 2 hours. Yeah, I'll say yeah, the first hour was rough. Sorry about that. No. Thanks for your time and your teaching. You're welcome. You're more than welcome. Oh yeah, yeah. Peace, Jeremiah. I was thinking about you recently, man. That's funny. Yeah, I was thinking about you. Yeah, good to so Avatar. Good to see your avatar. Yeah, but Wild Girl, peace to you too, and of course Kashia and thank you for reminding everyone to hit the like and the share button and stuff like that. Appreciate that all day, every day. Oh, nephew still here? You must be making beats. That's why you still up. Yeah, that's probably what you doing. But yeah, man, yeah, we'll get up, and yeah, I'm gonna try to figure out how to put that poll up. I got a series idea that I want to do. Um, so I'll see how to put a poll up. But yeah, I definitely ain't. Yeah, it's a new day, Baba, no doubt. I got you. I can't put it on IG. I can't do nothing on IG. So for all of y'all like, man, I'll follow me and follow me back. I can't yet. I'm sorry. I can't follow anybody. No, the music channel is not blocked. That's why sometimes when I put up a post, I comment from the music channel because I can't even my own post. I can't put my own caption. It won't let me caption. I can't comment. I can't put any text in IG. I can put a picture. I can put a video, but no text. So sometimes I'll log in from my other one if it's something really important. But nowadays, I'm like, I ain't going through all that. It's just not that important to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, gotta send it from this one, then I gotta log in from that. Man, F them. I mean, whatever, man. I'm not. It's just it's too much, and probably that's what they want. But my Baba said the revolution will not be televised, man. You know what I mean? So we become what we are. The war is in the sky. That's in the mind. It's up here. So you're not gonna do but anything. Nah, I don't make beats at the same time when I tune. Okay, I got you. um, whatever you do that's gonna be most effective is not gonna be seen by the masses. Like I told y'all before, David killed a bear and a lion. They don't even talk about the story. They talk about Goliath when everybody was seeing. Shoot, after you kill a lion, like killing a dude, ain't that hard. And I got a slingshot, so it's not like I'm up. It's not like he was up on him with a shank. You know what I mean? He was at a distance. You know what I mean? So, um, yeah, man, these things ain't really that deep. Yeah, Facebook has polls. I could put it on Facebook, really, but that's where all my old heads are. I don't know how tuned in they really are. You know what I mean? I got a good amount of Facebook followers, but I suspect like half of them are relatives. You know? No, that's not true. No, that's not true. But I did notice like between the three different platforms, the people who interact are three totally different people. And then I like TikTok. I got people messaging me I don't even know. You know what I mean? But I know between the three different platforms, it's three totally different people. So if I put a poll up on IG, they're not gonna watch on YouTube because they don't. It's different people. When I do lives, I mean on Facebook. When I do lives on Facebook, I've done them before and they were packed. I get way more people on Facebook than I do on YouTube. Like but it's totally different people. But I don't really feel like doing all that. I'm gonna put a poll. I probably still do it anyway, but this is not the. I don't have time for it. I don't have time. I don't have time for this. You know what I mean? So I don't feel like doing all that. I keep it real with you, man. You know, it's just the old head in me. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be sitting here playing with these. And I know that sounds crazy because I'm actually a tech person, but this ain't tech. You know, when you look at the age range, girl, let's check out Miss Cassie. I don't know what that is. But when you look at the age range for like who can operate these software, it's teenager. It's like so this is not really. Yeah. I'm not putting as much energy into this. I know that sounds messed up, but I ain't doing it. Yeah, but yeah, Miss Cassie, yeah, Cassie, she be doing lives. What do you call it? Ain't nobody listening, something like that. Nobody's listening or talking to nobody. I think something like that, or something. But she's up there listening to Miss Cassie. Yeah, it's a different age group. You know what I'm saying? Oh, the poll, Jeremiah. I was gonna ask. I was thinking about doing another breakdown series. I could say it here. Um, I actually was gonna do a Sumerian and early old Bible breakdown. Not when I say old Bible, I'm saying Genesis and Sumerian creation myth, but like breakdowns. But it wasn't just that; it was more than that. So basically, like how I did Command the Day last year, which was more mental concepts. I was gonna do the same thing, but this time include more mythology and show you how to apply it. And I was going to do like maybe 20 to 30 days of that, something like that. Um, but I was going to put up a poll first to see like, hey, anybody would be interested in that. But I couldn't figure out when I started the live. I couldn't figure out how to put the poll up. I seen somebody do it before, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I didn't want to start pressing buttons and end the live. And somebody was like, "Oh, put it on IG," but my IG has been restricted for over a year now, since June of what do you mean 2021? Since June of 2020, it's been restricted, so I can't put anything there. But yeah, that's what the poll was about. All right, everyone. Yeah, my eyes are not they're not waking color, so I'm gonna let it go with that. All right, so we'll talk soon enough. All right, peace, 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 peace.